Hi, I'm Bob, the son of Bowler Hat Guy from Meet the Robinsons. And I'm the new Hannah's leaving. I'm the new host of Not My Fantasy Podcast. I'm a VK, so I kicked out Cullen.
I didn't come up with who I was.
Well, there is a character named Hannah in the franchise.
What? Who is she?
We'll get to Hannah.
I thought I heard them say my name, and I was like, "What?" Because I was like, I kind of went in and out of consciousness as I watched these movies.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was supposed to watch one each day leading up to this. And yesterday I was like, I'm gonna treat myself and not watch the third one and watch both of them tomorrow morning. That's a tomorrow morning Hannah problem. And it was a problem.
I'm Cullen.
And I'm Hannah.
And today we are doing a deep dive into the entire Descendants franchise. Oh, your Ursula shirt.
Of course. I wore it this time. I remembered.
I have a leather jacket. I have a sleeveless button tank. I have pants that have like zippery buckly things on them. I'm
You're a
a
baddie.
VK. I'm a VK. I have costume changes because I have been waiting my whole life, I think, to talk about this franchise. And it's time, and I kind of went insane this week prepping for this episode.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean,
what else was I supposed to like? I was like, I was Lin-Manuel Miranda. I'm not throwing away my shot.
although I do have to say, had I known that the fourth movie was sort of starting with new characters, I would have suggested that we don't talk about the fourth movie at all because it is its own thing now. And that's
really
deeply
is
confusing and upsetting.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the fourth one really is a lore bombshell.
Uh-huh. Because it's a time travel movie.
It's a time travel movie. And here's my thing with Descendants. I think they're fun movies.
Sure.
They're a good time. And you really are supposed to watch them no thoughts, head empty.
Yep.
But I just can't stop thinking as I watch them. And there are lots of suspensions of disbelief I'm willing to take. There are some that just a little like 10 more minute story brain sesh, you could have avoided some of those pitfalls.
Yeah, here I want to give a caveat. There are much fewer suspensions of disbelief that I can do, right? As a person, as a human being. But like, again, anything that I say, this is my caveat, is that I did eventually meet the movies on their level, but boy, did it take like 15 minutes. Because I was like, these movies are 15 minutes too long, but that's the 15 minutes you need to like suspend your disbelief. And not just disbelief in like the lore things they're playing, just suspension of disbelief that like I am watching these movies. I am in complete disbelief. I must suspend that.
I also am going to recommend that this is one of those that could be one of our episodes that could be I'm watching this in the background as I do thing, but there is a visual component. You're seeing my desk for the first time. Hannah's reporting from the Isle of the Lost, but we're in Bob, the son of Bowler Hat Guy.
Layer that all four of them live in, except maybe they don't all live there. But there is graffiti art of Boo Boo Stewart.
Yes.
So
I'm drinking from one of my poison apple mugs. I have energy drink in that, and I have water in my Aurora mug. The good and the bad.
Hydrate.
Which leads us to our question. What is good? What is evil? The
Oh, I
poster
thought you were
is
going to ask me if this
backwards.
was my fantasy. Oh, no, the poster is perfect on my end.
Oh, great. What is good?
Yes.
What is evil?
Long live evil.
Long live evil. That's all you've got to say. I would like to open with a quote from two sacred scriptures, Genesis and the Twilight novel, because Twilight opens with this quote.
Uh-huh.
Twilight featuring Boo Boo Stewart.
Of course.
But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it. For in that day thou shalt eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die.
Yep. I died.
To know, yeah, to know good and evil is to die. So I had a little poster. I have Adam and Eve, no titties in sight. I put the words over the boobs.
Nice.
Yeah, this poster only needs to be up for a small portion of this.
Okay.
But this is my thesis question, or like what we're examining today. Descendants and the aesthetics of good and evil. So Descendants. I mean, perhaps in a world of white hegemonic aesthetics, late stage capitalism, late stage Protestant theology, good and evil are aesthetics you can adopt based on purchases. They are ways you can appear, mere attitudes. And no franchise plays with this, encapsulates this more than Disney's Descendants. And I don't mean this in like a Descendants is bad or pernicious kind of way. I just think it is the best case study for like a whole societal thing. And it both reinforces and plays with and challenges the idea of like good and evil merely being aesthetic. So, Descendants, for the uninitiated,
Who I once was.
who you once were, you've been initiated into the Descendees, which it is a franchise of movies, dolls, web series, and books. We are only talking about the movies and the wedding special. The mini webisodes I have seen in my life, I will admit.
Are these like the animated ones?
Yeah.
Okay, because I saw those come up in the Disney Plus search.
The Wicked World. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not talking Wicked World. We are not talking the novels. Sarah Serif. I will link her below. She has a great video kind of exploring the lore of those. So I'm gonna get a little pretentious today, but so the first movie came out in 2015, and I watched it with my friends in college. These movies are really fun to watch in a group setting.
Yeah, I wish I had friends to live watch it with, because literally the second, I don't know, maybe the first song and dance number happened in the first movie, Lyle's like, I'm gonna go play a video game. So he abandoned me on the couch to watch them.
Yeah. I watched.
I do have some really good questions from him though, in the like 15 minutes that he did sit there, and then he was like, I can't.
We watched this in college. We called ourselves Descendees. And then we would do like a bit where it'd be like, this conversation is Descendees only. And it would just be like us talking about something random. But I saw rewatching these. I've seen them all once before. And then for this rewatch, I watched the first one with my sibling. And they had a lot of questions. And I watched the second one with Alex, who you may know from Hugh Jackman Back in Time. Kate Leopold.
Kate Leopold, yeah.
And our friend Maddie. So we watched it. And so they're fun. Oh boy. So
a
like
lot of sighing happening already.
There's just so much implications to the lore. And this went through the Obama, Trump, and now Biden administrations. So I think that says something.
Yeah. Whoa.
And this is where we can ask, what do good and evil mean to us as an audience? What do they look like?
Yeah. I have to say before you flip your first thing.
Yeah.
Cullen, you know this. I had purple hair at one point. And I've been thinking about going back. So what I would like to preface is that if in a few episodes I appear with purple hair, it is because I'm going back to truly the aesthetic that did feel like me. I did feel like Mal in that moment in the second movie where she comes back with purple hair and you're like, oh my God, she's finally herself again. I feel that. But however, that was from when I did that was 2017-ish, 2018. So
When
if
the
I
second
come back,
Descendants came out,
yep,
yeah.
exactly. That's weird. Maybe I am Mal. Uh, but if I appear on episodes in the future with purple hair, I was not inspired by the series. I've already been thinking about it.
Sure, Jan.
And flip your first poster.
All right. Let's talk about Goth's baby. Let's talk about NCIS's Abby.
Love that. Yes.
When I think of a goth, a big titty goth GF, I think of
Abby.
Abby.
Yep.
She's an icon. She was a delight on the show that was everyone's parents and grandparents' favorite show. Still
Yes.
is. Is it
I would
still
say still
on?
is. It still is because it's still on there, but there are different characters. I think
Yeah.
there's only 2 characters from the original series that are still on it. No, 3.
Yeah.
Unwatchable now, but
Yeah.
still
Without them.
grandparents and parents still watch it though,
Yeah.
obviously.
Um.
What else are they going to watch?
Yeah. So I'm doing a very speedy summary of a lot of complicated things. You know how the alt-right loves 1950s advertisements?
Hold on, was that your explanation of goths? That
So
one.
we will get more to Goth.
Okay,
I
good.
read an article about it, all right?
Love it. Okay.
So like the 1950s aesthetic of advertisements.
Did you make this handmade?
Yeah. Because I
Yeah,
was gonna do a PowerPoint and then I was like, I am sick of sitting at my computer all the time.
true.
I
This is also
so
just much funnier to
yeah.
have done it like physically.
I'm in a mental. I broke myself to prepare for this. I did this, with I was hanging out with my sibling while they recovered from a surgery, and we were watching extremely goofy movie. Yeah, so like if you notice, these people are all white, except
Mhm.
for Jemima, who's kind of a mammy caricature.
Mhm.
So like the 1950s advertisement, right? They're selling us like a suburban, affluent, spare income, woman stays at home, man works, America. Now that wasn't true for many people. It was true for some, but it was an advertisement. It was something they're selling you. You see people on the alt-right kind of repost these like that they're historical documents, but they're ads. They're selling you cocaine or I mean Coca-Cola, but with a little bit of cocaine, maybe Seven
Yeah.
Up, syrup, they're selling you these things. And part of this is because do I have a second page of ads? No. Part of this is because they're trying to encourage like they want women to stay home because they need them out of the factories. The soldiers are home from World War II. We're inventing the concept of a teenager because
Yep.
we need people with some spendable income, but they can't be adults yet because all the soldiers are back. So I mean, there's a lot going on. There's also like segregation and stuff. Um, Flash forward, let's go back to the future to the
Mm.
80s. We have Reagan and Thatcher. We got the Cold War. We got rapture stuff getting big from the 70s to the 90s with the Left Behind books. We have the war on drugs. We have satanic panic. I'm making the biggest mess. I'm just throwing every note I'm done with across the
I
kitchen.
This is unhinged, and it works.
Rafa will be so mad. Uh, we have the AIDS crisis. We have, a lot of us versus them. Like that's a gay disease. People are poor because they're welfare queens. You have all these babies for government money. These kinds of very racist, anti-poor stereotypes. And so then you get the counterculture, whether that is like, hip hop, like black culture or goth culture, emo, what was the article I was reading? The Goth Movement in English Society during the 1980s by Charles Allen Mueller. But just kind of, he talked about how this happened in America too. We have Anita Bryant, so this
Mhm.
this kind of like, oh, we need to protect the children, go back to what's safe and normal and decent, read like white, and preppy, because we'll have to go back to that slide because we need to talk about my personal nemesis, John Calvin, but
Right.
uh preppy, like white pastel, like that's what's wholesome. pretty in pink,
Yep.
if you will. But John Calvin here, good old Calvi, he taught in the elect and the reprobates. We probably talked about this in Time Traveler's Wife, talking about free will versus determinism. He taught that the elect were chosen by God, and so they would be wealthy, prosperous, wholesome. The reprobates were created for the purpose of going to hell, so they'd be poor, gross sinners. It's just kind of like an emphasis on like your faith and who you are. Are you in an in-group or in an out-group rather than your actions? And that had always kind of been a thread in Christianity and many religions, but his teaching and like that in American Protestantism really went mainline of it is not about what you do as much as like how you look, who you subscribe to. And this was part of, again, like the us versus them. Like, we want people to conform, we want people to look a certain way, act a certain way, and that way is wealthy, and that way is white, not black. Very specifically not black, but just also specifically white. And this kind of ties, so this is a contrast to the concept of noblesse oblige, which is like the divine right of kings, and that the nobles are given right to rule by God, but they do owe the poor something because they're all part of like one system. Like, it's your job to take care of people. Whereas the kind of prosperity gospel elect is like you're God's favorite, and that means those people suck because God decided they suck. So it's two variations of something problematic. One could oversimplify and say, but still keenly different. Here we are with Disney and the divine right of kings and monarchism. Sword in the Stone, right? Arthur is chosen as king on Christmas Day. We have Robin Hood is all about fighting false monarch. Prince John isn't the rightful king. We have Tangled, right? You have a disruption in the line of succession. Everything is restored by the end. You have even like Moana and Anna, they're leaders. They're born into royalty and they prove their leadership skills. And then Cinderella, not royalty, but as they say in the opening lines, in the opening song over the credits that no one listens to, Cinderella, you're as lovely as your name. Cinderella, though you're dressed in rags, you bear an air of queenly grace. Anyone could see a throne would be your proper place. She deserves to be queen because of how she bears herself. So Disney has definitely played with that. You also just have, here's good old King Rich back from the Crusades. You have Aladdin. He's a commoner, but he is fighting Jafar, who's usurping the rightful sultan. The Little Mermaid, they got to stab Ursula to restore the monarchy, even though King Triton doesn't seem to be that great of a king. And then you have Sleeping Beauty. The monarchy really, she doesn't know what's going on, but they have to fight the dragon who's in Maleficent, who's upsetting the monarchical plan. So even though Philip and Aurora question their roles in society, everything falls into the correct place by the end. The villains are like outsiders, outcasts. So you see some of the foundation of Descendants being laid there. I would like to call out the most divine right of kings movie Disney has ever made, The Lion King. Literally, the earth is dying because the wrong predator is in charge. Yeah, they really get away with it because they're animals. But like for a company that's so famous for its princesses, the Lion movie is the most pro-monarchist. What is good? What is evil? The question we were going to be asking ourselves throughout today. And what does that look like? Does it look white, preppy, like you go to BYU? Does it look hood, goth, poor, emo? Like, what do we think of as wholesome and good? Is it just a color scheme? Is it about what you're wearing, how you look? What do we consider threatening? I talk about this all the time, how people are generally, most strangers are very kind to me and expect me to be very nice. And I know part of that is just my general vibe. Part of that is because I'm white with light eyes and light hair.
Yeah.
Oh, I have so many personal nemesis. Let's talk about, is evil cool though? Because some of those things, goth, emos, hood, rapper, some of these are not words I would normally use to describe people, but we're talking aesthetics here. Is that kind of cool though, right? Like preppy can be a little uptight. And that leads us to the still somehow very white centric era of Tim Burtonism, which
Okay.
isn't it goes beyond just Tim Burton himself. Some of these, like,
Right.
I don't think he directed Addams Family Values or Daria, obviously, or that's Lisa Frankenstein, which kind of plays with that in a fun way. Again, this isn't necessarily like evil Tim Burtonism, but it's this kind of aesthetic of like who, like the goth versus the prep, like who's on the inside, who's on the outside. The insiders are shallow, silly, vain. They're considered good, but they're, morally selfish. They're morally bankrupt. And the goths, the emos, the edgy, the meaner people, they're almost kinder. They're misunderstood. They're smarter. They see how everyone else is a fake poser. Very Holden Caulfield.
Mhm.
Interesting though that the moment goth, edgy, dark is cool, it's connected with pale skin.
Yep.
So it's still part of that same system. So that's why I think there are some movies, like I like Corpse Bride, like I like movies that fall under Tim Burtonism. I like Lisa Frankenstein, but I tend to find those movies, media, very annoying and very shallow, because at the end of the day, you're basing someone's depth, morality, character off of aesthetics. And I'm like, well, that's boring, and you just think you're better than everyone else, so like gross. Like, and Tim Burton also loves racial stereotypes and says black people don't fit into his vision. So yeah, let's talk about fandom. Prep versus goth. Have you heard of My Immortal, Hannah?
You mean the song?
No, I mean the fanfic, the famous fanfic.
The famous fanfic. Well, I'm not in the fan fiction circle anyway. I was thinking this song by Evanescence.
Well,
I
I
didn't
think
hear
it's a
it was
reference.
Evanescence. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, my notes went everywhere, but at least the drink only spilled a little.
Oh, this episode
Okay.
is so chaotic. And we haven't even started talking about the movie.
I know. Okay, where's my This is the ghost of Tara Gillespie. I don't know if she said. There's actually a lot of great drama about like who wrote the fanfic and stuff. Um,
Okay.
but it's like it was a famously bad fanfic. And this is one of my favorite opening lines in literature. Hi, my name is Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway, and I have long ebony black hair. That's how I got my name, with purple streaks and red tips that reaches my mid back, and icy blue eyes like limpid tears. And a lot of people tell me I look like Amy Lee. Author's note: if you don't know who she is, get the hell out of here. I'm not related to Gerard Way, but I wish I was, because he's a major fucking hottie. I'm a vampire, but my teeth are straight and white. I have white, pale skin. I'm also a witch, and I go to a magic school called Hogwarts in England, where I'm in the 7th year. I'm 17. I'm a goth, in case you couldn't tell, and I wear mostly black. I love Hot Topic, and I buy all my clothes from there. For example, today I was wearing a black corset with matching lace around it and a black leather miniskirt, pink fishnets, and black combat boots. I was wearing black lipstick, white foundation, black eyeliner, and red eyeshadow. I was walking outside Hogwarts. It was snowing and raining, so there was no sun, which I was very happy about. A lot of preps stared at me. I put up my middle finger at them.
This is the opening to the story.
Yeah.
Okay, correction. Hogwarts is not in England. It is actually in Scotland, pretty sure, because they go north.
Oh.
So,
Fun fanfic and comment.
hmm.
So that is it's kind of a famous hot mess of a fanfic. She dates Draco, but this kind of like I'm goth, edgy, cool, preps are shallow, and my nemesis. And that was very big in fan fiction, even when this movie came out, as someone who was in the fan fiction circle. But as time went on, goth and prep is now kind of a ship. It went from I'm Bella, I
Yes,
don't know people's names, we hate each other, to we can make out.
that's interesting.
We're in the aesthetic era on TikTok and everywhere. Like this girl, do you remember when this girl was selling confessions on Instagram?
No.
Yeah, so this girl was selling Catholic confessions for any like coquette Catholic core clean girl aesthetic. And she would like clean your sins for like $5 or something. Martin Luther is pissed. So this is
Whoa.
the
That's
let me just
Catholicism under capitalism right there.
yeah, that she's just a Catholic girl boss selling an aesthetic, right? So here's some aesthetics. We got Barbie core, cottage core, clean girl, lucky girl, mob wife, Y2K, coastal grandma, baddie, coquette, stealth wealth, quiet luxury, ballet core, light academia, dark academia, fairy core, mermaid core, old money, new money, lobotomy core, grunge, tomato girl, art hoe.
Okay, I have a couple questions. What's
Yeah.
Tomato Girl?
I just saw it on the list. I didn't look. I
Love
was like,
that.
I'm going down enough of a rabbit hole. I can't explore what Tomato Girl is.
What if it turns out to be so important to Descendants, though?
What's your aesthetic, Hannah?
I would say that my aesthetic is very amorphous, but right now it is pretty much, I mean, if you look at what is in my closet, or I guess I should say my dresser, it's a lot of like workout clothes, but it's the aesthetic, I guess, in essence, would be girl who's too lazy to wear normal clothes out in public.
Athleisure.
Yeah, just athleisure, but not like because I work out, but because
Emphasis on the leisure.
because it's all that fits me right now. It's
Oh.
literally Mean Girls aesthetic. My ideal aesthetic, fall all year long. Sweaters,
You
jeans.
and my husband. Yeah.
Yep. But not Christian girl fall stuff, but like
I mean, I've been to a
cozy.
Christian Girl autumn party. It's fun. We all dressed up. I wore a hat.
Yeah, but that was ironic.
Yeah.
Authentic, not so much. Don't
I
want that.
think my aesthetic, I wrote Lego person. That's always been what I've aspired to, like blocks of color.
Okay.
I put Archie Andrews core,
Uh-huh.
or another term that I could just say Midwestern Prince,
Yes, very much so.
a little preppy, but not, you don't want to look like you spent too long on it because the reality
Not
is
Gossip Girl preppy.
yeah, like, because I the thing is, I'm not going to spend that long on it. I'm
No.
too busy making a Descendants deep dive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I just have so much to say about this franchise, and I think it touches on so many things. And that's what makes it so interesting. Because at the end of the day, they're fun musical DComs directed by Kenny Ortega. I didn't even put in my notes the usual cast starring so and so, directed by so and so, because like this is a new kind of content style. We're not gonna do this all the time because this again broke me.
This is a book report / rant.
Yes, I'm the meme of Always Sunny.
Yes, the Pepe Silva meme.
Yeah.
Got Pepe.
All right.
I got Descendants coming and going. Oh.
Okay. This is a timeline.
Okay.
So, because fairy tales are really common for deconstructing, exploring who's the hero, who's the villain. I would argue they're not the best. I think they're what everyone thinks of for that restructuring, but we're going to talk about why I think that's actually kind of a misnomer. I almost feel like superheroes might be better at that, but we'll see. So starting in 1995, we get Gregory Maguire's smash hit novel, Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. I just finished re-listening to the audiobook. I read that in high school. The sex with a tiger in a cult did not make it into the musical, nor did the fantasy AIDS, but it's actually a really interesting book. It's very dark. It's a weird one, but it's really interesting. But anyways, we'll talk about Wicked later. But then 2001 we get the text Shrek, start of the Shrek franchise. The fairy tale characters are like princes and princesses are shallow, vain. Like morality is just about appearance, and then ogres are rejected just because they're ugly. Then you get the Wicked musical in 2003. Really girl bossifies her in a good way. I love that musical. We get Hoodwinked in 2005. Let's take the story of Red Riding Hood from all these different angles. 2007, Disney is making fun of itself in Enchanted. 2011, we get Once Upon a Time, the adult, essentially, not really adult, but like for an older audience version of Descendants that is about the fairy tale characters trapped in a town in Maine, and it gets really wild. But one of the main characters and the best character is Regina, the evil queen. Hashtag Swan Queen ship. It lives on in my heart. 2013, you get Frozen. We also get the books franchise, School for Good and Evil, which plays with this in...
Isn't that now a Netflix series?
Yeah, or a movie. I saw the movie. We'll save that discussion for the movie. I think it is kind of surface level. Yikes. I wish someone would read a fairy tale before they wrote one of these. We get Frozen. Then 2014, we have Maleficent, right? That's a big one. Angelina Jolie, we're exploring that character.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
And 2015, we get the Cinderella remake, which was a big rebrand for our girl, but we are a brand reigniting. And then we get the 2015 Descendants.
Whoa, those are the same year.
Those are the same year.
Technically the same company, but there's Disney and then there's Disney Channel.
Yeah.
And now there's Disney Channel, and Disney Plus. Fascinating.
2017, we get the Beauty and the Beast remake, R.I.P. Culture. You get
R.I.P. France.
R.I.P. France. We get Descendants 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah. Then in 2019, we get the Aladdin remake. We have Descendants 3. We have Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. And then 2020, you get the Moana live action. 2021, you have Cruella, another villain getting her own thing, and Descendants: A Royal Wedding. And then 2022, we have the Pinocchio remake that was trash. 2023, you have Peter Pan and Wendy and the Little Mermaid remake. 2024, Descendants: Rise of Red. And later this year, the Wicked movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of a timeline of these fairy tale adaptations, how we're playing with it. And I think Maleficent and Corella are kind of key in that. So Maleficent doesn't really, she's evil for like a 10th of that movie,
right?
But she looks evil. She's goth. She wears leather. She has high cheekbones. Angelina Jolie did a great job, but in some ways it feels like a world with less depth than the animated movie, because now the fairies have to be dumb. The queen still doesn't get a name. In Cruella, she harms not a single animal. She's pro-animal, even though Dalmatians killed her mom.
Huh?
Yeah. Which is...
Didn't see that movie.
It's actually... I enjoy it. It's very fun. Emma Stone does a great job. Emma Stone versus Emma Thompson. It's amazing. But Cruella is beloved because she's like a fashion icon.
Mm-hmm.
Maleficent is beloved because she's evil.
And a fashion icon.
And a fashion icon. So it's just like what we expect from them and their movies, I think is different.
Oh. Yeah, also the caliber of villainous is also very different. And I have thoughts and opinions when it comes to those movies, the Descendants movies.
All right. Let's talk about, the BuzzFeed era, the Nostalgia Critic, Cinema Sins era. We're really dissecting the Disney brand while all these remakes are coming out. And we also have Mattel's Monster High doing really well. Yeah. The Children of Famous Monsters. So this is the era of branding we're in. We have Monster High. You have the princesses are, very sparkly. You have the villains are getting their own kind of marketing. It's almost like Prep vs. Goth. It's very Ebony Darkness, Dementia Raven way. And this kind of ignores the fact. So we start to get into this ignoring of the fact that fairy tales are generational struggles. These aren't characters that are the same age. Snow White isn't Mean Girls.
Right.
Mean Girls is about two young girls competing for popularity and attention. And you could interpret Snow White and the Evil Queen about being the same age, I guess. But one is the other's parent. And in earlier translations of the Brothers Grimm Snow White, it was her mother. And they're like, that's too effed up. So they made it a stepmother. Hansel and Gretel, right? Like, that's cannibalism. That witch is eating people. I know people are like, well, she never ate them. Gretel was just
But she
guessing.
was gonna.
Hansel was being fattened up, put in a cage.
Yeah.
Gretel was being forced to do work. So,
Yeah.
you know, shout out to Dorchen Wilds who told that story to the Brothers Grimm. So yeah, Snow White is generational. And I think that's key even in Disney, right? They have kids. Mother Gothel, famously a mother. Mother serving. Hercules is Hades' nephew, but he is a baby and Hades is fully grown. Cinderella, literally the whole plot is that she has a bad guardian. Quasimodo and Frollo. He's
Hmm.
a bad parent figure.
Yep.
Now,
Guardian.
if who would let these people have more kids to raise when their main crime is being bad at raising kids? Well, Frollo has several crimes, but fairy tale villains, you know, in their stories, they do cannibalism, incest, like a lot of crazy stuff. What about Disney villains, right? Disney's a little more safe. It's more sanitized, right? That's what everyone says. It's what everyone says in every little class or YouTube video. Okay. I put together some of the crimes. Also, let's look at some age gaps. Is Jafar the same age as Aladdin and Jasmine? Does he look like that?
No. Jasmine's what, 13 or 14?
Yeah,
And
15.
15. Okay, and so Aladdin's probably the same age. Jafar is a 40-year-old man.
Yeah, and that's being nice. Look at Philip and Aurora. Is that the same age as Maleficent?
No, Maleficent is not 15. She's like ageless. She's probably like 100 or something.
What about this undead horned king and your least favorite animal abuser, Taryn? Are they the same age?
They act like it. No.
What about
Clearly not.
here's an exception. Anita and Cruella, college friends.
Were they really?
Yeah, that's how they know each other. They're school chums at the end of that's how they know
Okay.
each. So they're like peers.
Fascinating. Well,
But
you know what? Listen, Cruella doesn't go out in the sun a lot. And you know what? I could go white really early. You know, my grandma did.
yeah,
You
Steve
know,
Martin.
there you go. Steve Martin. Yeah, when he was like 30 something. So there you go.
Is Hades the same age as Megan Hercules?
No.
No, right? Okay, so let's talk about these people that are adults and their child rivals. Let's talk about some of their crimes. Child abuse, right? Here's the wicked stepmother.
You could argue that
Cinderella.
all of these crimes start with child abuse.
Child abuse. Snow White, that's child abuse. Gothel famously
Kidnap.
gaslighting her kidnapped child. There's bullying. Look at Jafar bullying that little or Agrabah twink Aladdin. Look at Frollo bullying and child abusing his differently abled child. Look at the stepsisters, kind of a very low rung tier villain. Bullying / borderline like not borderline assaulting Cinderella. That are things that you could get canceled for, at the very least, and you should be. Here's some more villain crimes: deceiving a minor. We have Jafar
trying to poison
doing that.
a minor.
Jafar, evil queen. Dr. Facilier is, I don't know how old Naveen is, but he was not being honest in that deal.
No.
Ursula and Ariel. Ariel's
Yeah,
16. What can she sign?
That deal with Naveen, that would not hold up in civil court. Maybe not
Yeah.
criminal, like it's not a criminal thing, but it definitely, that's a civil issue. Get yourself a lawyer.
We get Ursula and Ariel, Hades and Hercules. Also, dark magic is happening. Magic designed to harm, which self-respecting spellcasters that you would know would say, don't do that. But she's making potions. She's cursing babies. She's putting teen to 20-year-old men in bondage, Maleficent is. She's kidnapping. And the evil queen is poisoning, disguising. Ursula, Dr. Facilier, they're doing negative magic to harm people. So is Jafar. We have kidnapping. Look at this Madame Medusa and Penny from The Rescuers. She kidnapped a child to go put her in danger, to go get a gem. More kidnapping. We have Gothel kidnapping Rapunzel. Gothel kidnapping Rapunzel. We have Wendy all tied up, being forced to walk the plank. I Googled Wendy tied up because that's how my brain would go there first. I'm not most people, I guess. They're like, safe search isn't on, just so you know. I was like, wait, why does it need to be on? Frollo, he's about to murder a baby and instead just adopts it because the church guilts him.
Yeah.
And Frollo is also doing some sexual harassment
Yep.
of Esmeralda. Ursula,
Mhm.
sorry, she's brainwashing Eric
Yep.
and is going to enter a union. We have Jafar putting this 15-year-old girl in a spell so he can all go hit on her. I know everyone talks about the time she played into it to help escape, but
That
he
doesn't
wanted to.
excuse. She just smart. She
Yeah,
knows how to get out of the situation. She's like, I got this.
she's trying to stop herself from being trafficked.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's basically her goal that whole movie.
Some more sexual harassment in the bottom
Gaston
there.
and Belle. That's a
Which
whole
I have
campaign
to
of sexual
say,
harassment.
I have to say, when spoiler alert, Gaston's son is like
Mhm.
to whatever Belle and Beast's son's name is. I can't remember. There's too many characters. He's like, tell your mom that my dad says hi. And I'm like, you are abetting sexual harassment, young man.
Yeah.
Careful.
How does your mom, who's probably one of those bimbettes from the town, feel
Who?
about that?
Helen, are we talking about this movie yet?
No.
Because why does only one of them have two parents? Where are the other halves? Or are they just like spawning children?
You know, I have a lot of questions about the population of the Isle of the Lost.
I've also Voradon.
Yeah.
Is it only children and then 5 adult authority figures? Or
We
adult
have
authority figures?
some more crimes. This is the murder board. There's
Murder board.
Maleficent.
Murder board.
Here's Maleficent trying to murder Philip and Aurora because the fairies altered it to sleep. Maleficent was like, no, she's dying. She's gonna die. We have a semi-successful murder of Snow White. The plan was to have her buried alive, you know. We have Frollo trying to murder Quasimodo and Esmeralda after trying to burn her at the stake. We have, Hook is gonna kill Pan, Jafar is gonna kill Aladdin. Shan Yu's gonna kill Mulan. Gaston stabbed the beast who let him go. Here's Gothel stabbing Frollo. Here's Ursula trying to kill Ariel and Eric. She's
Flynn,
queen of the
not
ocean.
Frollo.
Oh, Flynn, yeah. I feel like Gothel and Frollo would have kids together.
Oh, yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. I think Maleficent and Hades do kind of make sense. I could see Jafar and Evil Queen.
But that would make Evie and Jay terrible siblings, but I don't think they are.
They're not. I'm just saying, like, this is what I would do, but I obviously wasn't hired to write this. Here's some more crimes. These are animal cruelty and political crimes. We have Corella famously trying to skin puppies. Here's Edgar from Aristocats, who I do believe in my heart is on the Isle of the Lost, who tried to kidnap those kittens. Here's Ursula as Vanessa chokeholding Scuttle. I couldn't find a picture of when she kicked
the dog.
Max the dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have Yzma doing a coup assassination. The Queen of Hearts is gonna off people's heads. We have Shan Yu holding the doll of the girl in the village he's gonna destroy. Yep. And Frollo, he's genociding the Romani people and taking their babies. Dr. Facilier squished that bug. Jafar is doing a political coup, or controlling the government. Hades is trying to take control, capture the other gods.
To the bird.
He is. Gilbert Godfrey, yeah. Here's Shan Yu trying to take control of China. The Horned King raising an undead army. Ursula using a legal loophole to gain control of the seas. So they do things that are crimes. They don't just wear the zippers. So that is the. Get back.
No, they don't just wear zippers in places where there doesn't need to be zippers.
Yeah, I guess that's evil to Stacey and Clinton of what not to wear. I will get back to my flow chart or whatever. I have a couple more pages, but that's our intro material. Yeah. We made it
some
to
things
Descendants one.
to chew on.
I just felt like it'd be easier to yeah, it'd be easier to open with that context of like how I approach when I watch, and like why I find these movies so fascinating. Because I don't really just want to be like, we'll do a bit of that, a bit of like, this makes no sense. What's happening here? Why are they all in the same universe? There's that can be fun, but it's also, I think there is something more interesting than that going on with these movies. Let's talk about Descendants 1.
I only took notes for the first movie and then a few for the second, and then I gave up on taking notes, which is so on brand for me.
Yeah.
But at least in my own defense, this was 4 movies, not a single movie that I just couldn't be bothered to continue taking notes on.
Hannah, how does this movie open? With an iPad.
Fucking iPad as the storybook. That's when I said I am exactly 0.00007 into this movie and I'm scrambling to get my phone to take notes. That is when I texted you that.
Yeah. They
I
really throw a lot at you.
Yes. I mean, that was literally like getting a softball to the face.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a storybook. Okay. So they're really like, because the movies that they play from, a lot of them take place much later, earlier in the past than 30 years ago. So that's why it's sort of like, oh, like they have to use the iPad to show us like this is present day. This is like,
Yeah. This
yeah.
is modern.
So like
And
it does give us that signal, but boy, does it hurt when you get that softball to the face.
yeah. So so basically our narrator Mal is like, okay, everyone lives in the same universe. Fair enough.
Yep. Sure.
Beauty and the Beast 20 years ago. I do want to keep track of time because this is gonna be the thing later. Beauty and the Beast 20 years ago, they got married, they united all the kingdoms, and they did an apartheid.
Uh-huh. Um, why is it called Oradon? Do we know this?
No, but I have some
Okay.
thoughts on that we'll get
Cool.
to.
Great.
But so they put all the villains,
Also, they call it the
henchmen,
United States of Oradon. And they also refer to
the
Beast
USA,
as
baby.
they also refer to Beast as the president, but also the king. And I'm like, what's the truth, Ellen?
Yeah, is he the High King, like of Ireland?
But what is this? The political system makes no sense.
Yeah, it's the political system is bonkers because also the he gives the crown to his son when his son turns 16 and he's well alive.
And so like, is he king emeritus now? And what does that mean? And also, why did you make a 16-year-old king?
In the Wicked World, or not the Wicked World, the books by Melissa de la Cruz, they said, oh, it's an Oradon tradition. I'm like, your kingdom is
30 years old
20 years
max.
old. 20 years old at this time. So at the opening of Descendants 1,
First
it
movie
is
was
20. 4 says 30, and we're going to touch on that. We're going to
Okay,
get there.
good.
The rabbit hole swallowed me. I'm not the same person. So the barrier keeps magic and Wi-Fi out. It's a slum. These people have been ghettoed. They've been locked away. Innumerable amounts of people, and with children.
Oh, okay. So
There's
this
also
is
like government propaganda on the walls there. I'm like,
yeah,
yikes.
it's gross. It's really gross. One of Lyle's questions was, did they get exiled there and then have children, or did they have these children and then get exiled there? And I guess it depends on the age of the child, but
If they're under 20, they're children.
yes, but there are probably people who are, over 20 who were children when this happened.
Yeah, is there a huge gap? Is there like
Right.
people who are born on the island and then people who
Confusing,
according
confounding.
to the book, which I don't really rely on because the books are like only semi-canonical, the villains who died were resurrected to be put on the island because they wanted this to punish them. And I'm like, to me, So if I had Maleficent running around my society, yeah, she should be in prison. I don't want her running around. But if she was dead, I'd be like, great. Not great, but just like, okay, well, that's not a problem. That's not an ethical dilemma we have anymore because she's not alive. And I think it's also wild to say that because they're magical beings that could very easily, like that sludgy ooze that's Maleficent at the end of Sleeping Beauty could reform into her. She's
Sure.
the mistress of evil. Like, if I could do it in my fan fiction, they could do it too in their fan fiction.
Yes. This is literally a penal colony.
The person that allows this or enables this is Fairy Godmother. Her wand. Let's put her here.
Yeah, her elitist wand.
So the Fairy Godmother, her actress, was in a Red Robin commercial. My sister was very keen on pointing that out. She's also from the original Jake from State Farm commercial.
Wow, fun fact.
Fun fact. And Belle played the Blue Fairy on Once Upon a Time.
She was also in one of the Final Destination movies. I think it was the second one, and I think she's the one that dies by she's driving behind, or she's parked behind a truck that has some like beams, like sharp
she's the
metal
one that
beams.
gets metal. Oh,
yeah. And she gets stabbed right through the chest, or decapitated, one of the two. But it is one of my biggest fears, and that is why I always go around any vehicles that have shit sticking out the back, because I am not about to get decapitated. So
I'm just putting on the board some people that are okay with this apartheid state.
Yes.
Some people who are probably complicit, considering how high ranking they are
Very
in their
much
society.
Complicit. Yeah.
Okay, so we got Fairy Godmother, and then so Cinderella and Charming.
In quotes. Because
in quotes.
We don't see them.
We don't see them, and there's a reason I'm putting this version of Cinderella on, because I think this is who the filmmakers were envisioning.
Yes.
Because she is this Cinderella at this time in the Disney fandom. Her Lily James rebrand was only just come out, and so this Cinderella was seen as what Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway would call a prep. I don't think that is character accurate, but it is how she was seen in the fandom.
Yes.
Shallow and snobby. But that's not really who we get in the movie, but that's where she is in the fandom right now.
I'm assuming she lives in Cinderellasburg, which is a place on the map.
I hate that name, but of all the things,
it's so peppy.
And it kind of makes sense that, in a monarchy, if a queen's really popular or something, they'd be like, let's name this new city after her, or let's rename the city.
That's just like where her kingdom sits, because they're all still royalty, and assuming Belle and Beast are at the top, but then there's sort of this other layer of like Cinderella and Prince Charming, Aurora, and
Philip.
Yeah, that's his name.
They're here again, very much considered preps at the time, and I will talk about them later because I have a lot of thoughts. We have Gelatin, #Gelatin. They supported this. Aladdin the street rat. Cinderella the abused girl. Yeah, they were like cool with this. Yeah. Mulan and Shang, not even royalty.
Nope.
I have questions about who goes to this school, but we'll get there. And I'm putting Tiana and Naveen on there now. We're going to talk more about the implications of that later. But Tiana, who canonically deals with segregationist things. Yeah. Not my Tiana. She wouldn't do that. No. Not my any of these people, to be fair.
I think the funny thing is that, like, the writers of this movie did not do any of this thinking. They're just like, wouldn't it be cool if they all were under one kingdom? Okay, let's not think about any of that. But we are going to consider slightly the politics of what the villains did and how we think they should be treated, or they would have been treated in this system. But we're not gonna. Fascinating.
Let's talk about this now. They really worked backwards from we want the villain kids to be the new kids at this school.
Yes.
And only in the second movie did they really consider those implications, and especially in Trump's America, now what they had to deal with.
Yeah.
because to me, this is how it would so easily work. After the stories happen, the villains team up to try and take over the world. Because in their stories, they're all separate. So they team up, the heroes all band together, they form a united kingdom. Villains are exiled and
Huh.
they form their own kingdom. And it sucks because the evil people are bad at running a kingdom because they're all selfish.
Mhm.
And so they're rival kingdoms. Maybe there is a magical wall because the evil people would keep attacking.
Right.
And then it makes sense for there to be children there. And then for the good people to feel concerned about some of those kids and are like, oh, we could have them come here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what
It's
I mean is that this problem they make for themselves is so easily solved.
just so strange.
They just said Isle of the Lost sounds cool. And it does. But it could also
Let's
have
make
been
it
an
a
island.
slum.
Yeah, let's make it a slum. That's it's just insane. Also, Oridon, let's talk about it. Who does that sound like?
Aurora.
Yeah, I feel like there was a draft where those two were the main monarchs,
Yes, that makes
especially
sense.
especially if Maleficent's our main rival, our main villain. They unite kingdoms in their story canonically. Makes sense, and they of all people would be the most likely to be like, we can't have any villains here because their villain was the mistress of all evil, not the people whose villain was some guy who was a dick.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
his villain, so the villain in Beauty and the Beast, there's the Beast was an antagonist in an essence, and then Gaston. Yeah. Like, why is it them? Because,
it makes
but it's also like if we're talking about like people who have like a penchant for putting baddies away, the people who had to deal with Maleficent, it seems more, or even Aladdin and Jasmine.
yeah.
Anyone with like a heavily magical baddie. Because Gaston, he never even appears.
Yeah, and there's no politics in Beauty and the Beast in regards to like their kingdom or him trying to take control of the kingdom. Whereas that's the thing in Aladdin or Little Mermaid or even
Yes.
sort of Sleeping Beauty. You
Like,
know,
yeah, that's why it's like, okay, that doesn't make sense.
it's a weird, and so I feel like the plan because also Romeo and Juliet style love story doesn't it make more sense for the daughter of Maleficent to fall in love with the daughter of Philip and Aurora? And doesn't it make more sense if the mother is kind of more approving of this that Aurora would be the one who would be a little bit more of a trad wife and maybe go along with something even that she didn't like?
Yes, because Belle is not a trad wife. She reads
Yeah.
books.
Yeah,
Duh.
I don't even really fully read Aurora as a trad wife. I feel like when I in my if
But
things
you
were
could
going on, you could make that jump
easy,
easier. I
yeah,
would
yeah.
say I think her role in medieval society would be like, wait, why are we doing this? Like this doesn't make sense to me because I was raised by lesbians in the woods. But you could see how she's a
Yes.
quieter character. But I think people were like, well, we don't want to sell the son of Sleeping Beauty merch because that's too preppy. And Beauty and the Beast are more popular. They're not preps. They're considered more depth. So we're gonna do that.
They're more contemporary.
Yeah. So it's based on where characters were standing in the fandom at the
That
time.
makes sense. I
Even
get
though
it.
again, it makes more sense. Like it's more poetic
So
too for
why
the
keep
son of
it
Sleeping Beauty to date Maleficent.
Auradon? Because now it just makes me think that Beast and Aurora are fucking.
USA baby.
Yeah,
Red,
but you could
white,
come up with another A name.
blue,
Uh
gold, and blue, white, blue, and gold. These colors don't run. USA. USA.
yeah,
Uh
I don't know.
so yes, so all this to say we're meeting Ben. The Beast makes a comment about it was either Mary Bell or a teapot. That's why I put Mrs. Potts on here.
Uh-huh.
There's a teapot fucking joke.
Yep.
And it is, so this is a director of High School Musical. I would say these movies, I think High School Musical movies are heavily tinted by nostalgia. Like the songs are good, but I think they're very slow. And
Yeah.
the characters are very boring. Uh,
Yeah.
and so I would say these are, I know this is, I'm going to say they're better. I think they are, as much as they're 15 minutes too long, they are better paced. I guess this is more entertaining to watch.
Sure. Yeah.
The soundtrack
I,
for High School Musical, banger. The movie is like,
yeah.
let's watch Zac Efron slowly sneak behind objects to go audition.
Um, and another issue I have, we'll maybe talk about when we get to the later movies, is the depiction of the relationships, of like the maturity of relationships, these teen relationships,
Yes,
and how
yes.
horny these movies are.
Yeah, so I initially brought it up because these movies are a little edgier. It's 2015, we're a little edgier.
Wonderful. Love that.
Teapot
Ship
fucking
it.
jokes can happen. Yeah, so they are like, yeah, so he's gonna be king now because that's tradition in their 20-year-old kingdom.
Whatever.
Uh, and so he's like, I think the children from the Isle should be given a chance to come here. And Beast is like, what? And he's like, well, they're innocent. And he's like, I guess they are. And Belle's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And he's like, I didn't make a good decision till I was 42. And she's like, you married me at 28. So some timeline lore right there. But here's Benny Boy, the prince. There he is. I can never decide if I hate or like his outfits. We also, so he says the names of the villains whose kids are coming over. And that means we get Maleficent, the greatest villain of all,
So
played
wait,
by
what are the parameters by which they are chosen? Is that ever explained?
no.
Great, love that.
He just
Because
picks
again,
people.
I would like to, you know, I have some thoughts.
So
So
Maleficent is
Maleficent,
considered the greatest villain of all. That Beast is
yes.
upset when he hears that. Now, what she has done in this universe, other than Curse Aurora and that whole thing, which was bad, I'm not saying it's I don't know. I don't know. Did she try and take over the kingdoms?
I
We don't know.
think I think that perhaps Beast is got a side piece. Name the kingdom after her. I don't know.
And then wants her daughter to marry his son.
No.
Cruella DeVille is in this universe. One of these things is not like the others.
Thank you. Listen, I have to say that I think out of all four of them, Carlos is the most authentically like a teenager, probably because the actor was very young compared to the other ones. But also like Cruella, really? Why? I'm sorry, but
I
this kid, if I was writing this kid, he would exist, but he would be a non-speaking character. I'm sorry. But I'm glad that he became a speaking character.
because
He's wonderful.
he's wonderful. He's my favorite. Shout out to the late
Same.
Cameron boys.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic.
And just such a
Uh
good actor, and I'm forever sad that we won't get to see where his
I
career goes.
yeah, I got really teared up in the fourth movie. It was very
Yeah.
sad.
And his aesthetic is good. The black and white thing, it
The black,
works.
white, and red. There's always
Yeah.
a little bit of red. However, he does wear like a capri or like a long short with like
Yeah.
a jacket, like a suit jacket,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not about that. But you know what? You do you.
We also get so they say Jafar and Evil Queen. So her name canonically is
Is
Evil
evil
Queen.
queen.
So
Love
she
that. It's
has
not
a
Donna or Karen
Donna,
or
no.
Celeste.
She
It's evil queen.
Celeste. So she has a semi-canonical name that has been used officially by Disney a few times and is kind of the fandom accepted one. Grimhilda.
Sure.
That's not used. Also, the beast is always this
Oh my
beast.
god, and instead of Evie, she could have been Gigi.
Gigi. The names
She
of this
feels more like a
franchise.
Gigi, honestly.
Yeah, the names of this franchise are diabolical and do deserve prison time.
Mulan to Lonnie? What?
But they also the beast name is just Beast. They don't use Adam, his semi-canonical name.
No, why would they?
So yeah, everyone's scared. But now we go to the island for the number 38 chart-topping song, "Rotten to the Core."
Number 38? That's
Yeah.
impressive, honestly.
Honestly, yeah, because I thought there's another song that charted, and I thought that was the only one that did. We get Mal. She is, her name's Bertha. Is her
Mal,
last name Ascent?
is that a joke? I don't, what, oh,
Yeah,
you good?
I'm good. The joke is Maleficent.
Oh, I see.
Now,
Malbertha
Jay,
Efficient.
Bertha Epperson. We get Jafar's son Jay. So Mal's arc is she's a bully. She likes to manipulate people. And Jay
And steal
is
candy from babies.
and still can't even babies. She's rotten to the core. So is Jay. Jay's more just like a street youth who's a little violent. Oh no, I dropped a pin. That hopefully that won't come back to bite me.
Will stab you, actually.
We have Evie, who's a flirt question mark, but
Yeah,
she's
what
like
is Jay's deal?
he's
Not
violent.
even. Is he?
And he's
Oh yeah, he is in the first. It's been
and
so long
he's
since I've seen the first movie.
and he steals, which is weird because
Yeah.
that's Aladdin's thing. Jafar was a stuck-up sorcerer.
Right.
So Mal's kind of makes
who's
sense.
the street rat now?
Yeah, how the turns of tables. Yeah.
Exactly.
Evie is, she's a girly girl. She likes to dress up. She wants a prince in a castle. She's very princess
She's a
core.
fashion designer.
She's a fashion girly. She's also one of my favorite characters. I think she's really fun. And she actually gives a shit about other people.
She has a lot of emotional intelligence.
Yeah. Which is wild because it's who, and then she was raised by the evil queen, and her name's Evie. And then we have Carlos, who is, his arc is he's basically so abused and traumatized and scared of dogs.
And of his mother.
Yeah.
Cruella DeVille. So his name is Carlos DeVille.
Yeah. In the books, it says like he doesn't even have a bed. He like sleeps in the floor in a closet.
So she treats him like a dog.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is these child abusers had children and then continued to abuse their children. They're actual children.
Because that means Evie is Snow White's step sibling, right? Sort of.
Canonically.
And I feel like Snow White would be like, can she come live with me?
Right. Because
like, is there documentation of these children? They obviously know these children exist.
Like, it feels like Evie is only bad because she lives on the Isle, but otherwise, like, she seems good.
Yeah, like,
and isn't that what the movie's really about?
Yeah, because her big crime, like, the evil thing she does is like cheating on a test.
Gasp,
I know. So they get the news. Also, who are all these people on this island? How many are these? Just like Hook's pirates? Like, what's going on? We get a Maleficent, played by Wicked's Christian Chenoweth. She's all like, she's hamming it up. She's having a good time.
April
she's like,
from Glee.
You've been chosen. Yes, you've been chosen to go to Ordon Prep. And Mal is like, I don't want to go with all these pretty, preppy pink princesses. I'm Ebony Darkness, Dementia Raven Way.
Yes.
And she's like, you got to think bigger. I was cursing kingdoms at your age. I want Fairy Godmother's wand, and then you break down the barrier, and then we can take over the world. Pretty straightforward plot, right?
However, the thing that gets me is that I'm not unsympathetic to them wanting to break out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that a complexity they wanted us to have? Absolutely not. But I'm kind of like,
it's because there are all these other people. There's so many people here.
Because
it's not like
if it was just the villains and their kids, so let's say it's like 50 people, so it's like 25 villains, their significant other or whatever, just like, it's just the villains and their kids and that's it. That would be like it makes sense. Like, that's a penal colony. But like, why is Smee there?
Yeah, Smee
is a minion.
Yeah, it's insane because, like, how do you decide who are the heroes, who are the villains? I guess that's kind of the point, right?
So he died. Why did they bring him back? Wouldn't Belle be like, yeah, no, let's keep him dead?
And again, you could say
assault me.
Yeah, and my dad. You could just say he fell, broke his arm, but again, you could just put him in a regular jail.
Yep, you got jail. You got to have a jail. You got to have some place for like the baddies to get reformed, like actually reform them. Like he could be reformed. Therapy.
Yeah, the
Maleficent,
stepsisters
I don't
could go
know.
to therapy. Yeah.
Yes, Lady Tremaine could go to therapy.
And she could not be given the chance to raise more kids.
Exactly. She's not going to be running the orphanage.
Yeah. So they're all this penal colony, and so they're kind of like evil. So Maleficent is like, you got to take over. Mal's like, I don't know if I want to do that. They like green eye
The
thing.
fact that they hang out with Cruella is hilarious to me, but whatever.
And so she like shoots dagger, like they have this green eye thing, and Maleficent is more dominant, right? Dom top mommy, she's like, take over the world. Evil queen is like, just get yourself a castle and a prince, and then with a mother-in-law wing. Jafar, which I'm like, I'm glad they acknowledge that's what that character's goals were.
Yeah.
Jafar is like, oh, I need someone to stock the shelves, and Cruella is just like, Carlos needs to take care of my bunions, like he can't go. And Maleficent's like, we have to think bigger. And
Again,
so
why is Cruella there?
She's probably fun at a night out.
Maybe.
I don't know, but she's talking to a stuffed dog on her shoulder. I don't know. Yeah.
She's unhinged. Not in a fun way.
So Maleficent is like, Mal, here's my spell book. Evie gets a mini magic mirror. It's like a shard of the original mirror.
Yeah. So she can scry.
Yeah, because this also acknowledges something more so than High School Musical was willing to. This franchise is for the girls. Like the boys are there. It's really about the girl characters and their friendships. Yeah. And yes, I mean, I watched High School Musical when it came out and I liked it. But I mean, the people who are like really into it, buying them, it was like, are you a Gabriella? Are you a Sharpay?
Right.
Like that's kind of, and that's kind of Evie and Mal, like they're our leads. And this is very much like High School Musical is the Troy show, I would say. And this is very much the Mal show. They leave in their limo. Corella doesn't want Carlos to go. They're fighting over candy and chocolate because we've never had it before. So they arrive in Oregon. This is my sibling saw this and was like, this is very BYU coded. Like all the pastels, very Mormon assimilation coded. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ben is there. He's greeting them. He's having sexual tension with everyone, like licking the chocolate off his hands after he shakes Carlos' hand. I'm like, what? And then very obviously flirting with Mal, who is so unsubtle about wanting the fairy godmother's wand. She's just like, oh yeah, like, oh gosh, you're the bippity boppity boo fairy godmother, because she's the headmistress of the school. She's like she serves as the school headmistress and almost like an archbishop-esque figure in the coronation.
Yeah.
Which tracks. I'm like, of all the weird things, I'm like, this makes sense to me. But we meet Ben's girlfriend, Audrey. Oh, I could talk about her character so much, and we will. But she's introduced. She's your classic preppy pink mean girl. She's like the evil queen. You're not a princess. She has no status here. So there is like a charter of nobility and who has this status in Oregon. It's not just like left over. So she's like, she has no status here. I totally don't blame you or whatever for your mom trying to kill my parents. And she's like, well, I forgive your grandparents for not inviting my mom to their christening, but inviting everyone else in the world. And it's like, you do see how those aren't proportional, right?
Well, I mean, also she's kind of regurgitating the information her mother gave her.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, because at this point, Mal is not her own person. She's very much her mother's daughter. And that's an issue I have with the first movie, is that like we don't really get a lot of like what she actually wants until like the second movie. We kind of understand that she finally develops a desire of like, I want to blend both of my worlds. But in this first movie, she's just like, I want to make my mom proud, basically. I want to do my mom's bidding. But there's not a lot else.
this should be a series, to be honest. I think the world they make and all the lore and all these characters in it would make a lot more sense in animated series, a live action series, whatever.
But a
Like,
series, like a TV show, yeah.
yeah. But
Shorter
again,
episodes, and I think that would also help the pacing, but also I think it would have been a more natural growth and introduction to the characters in the
yeah,
lore.
they could have let the characters other than Mal have their time. But here's the issue with that is that this is 2015. And so they
True.
would make this series of this now put it on Disney Plus, whatever. But in 2015, was either this or a decom. And decoms were not about like character growth.
No.
It's
It's
about
very
Sabrina
much
Carpenter telling you don't have autism in the clip from Girl Meets World. So, but yeah, Audrey is our preppy mean girl to Mal's Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way. And so instead of star-crossed lovers from the same story, it's female rivals from the same story, which is weird because Sleeping Beauty has female rivals, but they're the fairies and the Maleficent. It's not fighting over a boy in the way you could argue Snow White kind of is, or
right.
Cinderella.
Right.
Again, no one put more than 2 minutes of thought into this.
Yeah, but this becomes basically a rivalry over a boy. It doesn't have much to do with the parents.
She's like, Doug can help you, because Ben's like, oh, I'm here to help. She's like, that's Doug. So here we meet Doug.
This is one of the more disturbing facts. By introducing the villains, that all of these characters have children, you are putting in my mind that these people have sex. And you have just put into my mind that Dopey fucks.
Dopey
and
fucks.
I can't.
Yeah, here he is on the board.
That's the result of Dopey and a lover.
Dopey and a lover. I mean, he could be adopted.
But he looks like Dopey.
I know.
So maybe not a lover, but a
surrogate.
A surrogate, I guess.
Dopey.
Which that makes more sense. No offense to Dopey, but he is a little dopey. But
it's, I'm like, can Dopey consent? It's so many questions. So many questions. And questions I wouldn't have if his dad was grumpy.
Yeah. Or even sneezy.
Yeah. You know? So he's our nerdy incel character, and he is immediately smitten with Evie, but she's not mean to him, but she's looking for a prince, right?
I mean, incel in the sense that, like, unlike his father, he has not fucked yet.
Well, no, I think there is.
I don't think get the sense that he was going to be an incel, but they didn't go that direction.
They didn't go there, but there is a bit.
He's a ducky. He's less better. Creepy than Ducky.
But he is like, he does admit to stalking her and being like, you don't need to be with a dumb prince. There's not a lot of there. But I mean, he is accurate in this sense.
Yeah.
I didn't initially think of him as that one, especially because it's not a central plot that he's mad that she's with a prince or whatever. Like, she pretty quickly like reciprocates his advances.
Yeah. She realizes, like, oh, there's actually a guy who's nice to me.
Yeah. But they're in their dorms. Evie loves it. Mal is like, this is for preps. The other, also VKs, villain kids, they use that. They're in their dorms. They're like, oh, they have video games, but they're like, use the mirror, find the wand. The wand is in the Museum of Cultural History.
Mal is very much like, this is a one-night job. She's like, we don't need to stay here.
No. Which, yeah.
I appreciate efficiency.
Yeah.
But it did feel kind of weird that she's not like scoping the place out more. She's very much like, all right, let's go. Let's go find this thing. And I'm like, okay.
And it is interesting because she's essentially been groomed or conditioned by her mom. And so the parents in this movie are pretty explicitly abusive.
Yeah.
And that's going to come up for me in Descendants 3. Just so you know, we've hit one of my worst 4 songs in the movie. And that would be Rotten to the Core. I think it's one of the 4 worst songs in the franchise. I know it charted to number 38, but
Oh yeah, no, it's not good. And it was the very first song.
yeah, I have so many notes. Okay. So they're in the museum. So the genie exists, right? We see Genie's lamp. We see Cinderella's glass slipper, the rose from Beauty and the Beast. And we see, I looked it up because I thought, oh, this is the golden ball from the Frog Prince. But that's interesting because, like, what does that make Tiana's story? Uh, it is Princess Ilanwi's golden ball from the Black Cauldron.
Who?
Ilanwi from the Black Cauldron. It is her little
You're
floating
telling
bauble.
me that Taryn, the animal abuser, is probably on Oridon and not in the penal colony where he belongs.
I guess, yeah. Ilanwi exists in this universe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Okay, fine. Sure.
Also, interestingly enough, the armor is labeled as belonging to Lancelot.
But I think that checks out considering the 4th movie.
Yeah, it does.
Spoiler alert.
All right.
Before it was Ordon Prep, before Ordon even existed, and a certain number of years before, it was known as the Merlin Academy.
Merlin Academy. So also Mal sees the wax figures of their parents, who apparently are like the 4 biggest villains. I'm like,
that's crazy to me. Cruella is a D tier villain in terms of this ranking because she has no magic. She just wants to kill puppies. I'm not saying killing puppies isn't bad, but like,
for a society, they would be like our greatest threats. Like Ursula and Hades would be up there.
Again, I have to say, Cruella, she could be on Ordon getting therapy, getting reformed.
Yeah. Mal's wax figure of her mom comes to life, and Mal has a lot of musical fantasies, and she sings "Evil Like Me," because if you have Christian Chenoweth, you're giving her a song.
Absolutely. I actually was worried they weren't going to give her a song, and then it happened. I was like, okay, good. They got their money's worth.
Yeah, so this is the first time Maleficent has had a song.
Wow.
Don't you want to be
history
evil
in the
like
making.
me? Yeah. So they find the wand. Jay sets off the alarm because he just grabs it, and they run away. And Carlos covers because he's the techie one, and he figures out a phone and tech and like chats with the other people like, oh yeah, how's the missus, you know. He
is clever.
He's clever and the least evil. Well, maybe Evie. I don't. Him and Evie are like the most like, these kids should not be on an evil island.
Also, I don't think Jay needs to be on an evil island.
No, Jay literally just needs one positive adult in his life.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like all the kids can be reformed, obviously, in the movies, but again, like, I don't think any of these kids are bad except Mal, but I can see through it that it's like she's just doing this because her mom wants her to. And
so
like,
yeah, Mal wants to destroy their society, and everyone else just kind of is along for the ride because she's their leader.
Yeah.
So they're in school. They're in remedial goodness, learning what to do with babies and poison. And Mal's just like, pick the most boring answer. And Jay and Carlos are fighting, and Fairy Godmother's like, you should do tourney because boys from underprivileged backgrounds, if they have aggression, are just encouraged to play sports.
Yep.
But we meet someone who's allegedly atrociously ugly. Look at this beautiful girl.
I know. Can we quickly talk about that?
Very beautiful girl.
Is that from even the first movie where like they made her look more dorky? But by saying dorky, I mean they had her hair up in like a not as flattering style as it could be. It didn't look bad. She's adorable. And it's like, what? How does this? But it's one of those things where like even like really pretty people have like insecurities and stuff. I think it's really just trying to find the insecurities instead of like this person actually being hideous. I don't know.
Yeah. So
It's a
she's
weird plot
insecure.
point.
She's insecure.
What's
Her
her
mom's the
name? Jane.
headmistress, Jane.
Jane.
And
She's a
then also
plain Jane,
she's a plain
according to
Jane.
this first movie.
And she's the only one who doesn't have a criminal name. And we also meet the coach who sees that Jay is naturally gifted at tourney, but he needs to learn about teamwork. And he's like, it's great because I'm used to having all these like frou-frou princes. And and there's a bit that goes on too long of Jay making fun of the princes. But Carlos needs some extra help as the gay coded one. They're like, have you tried band? I'm like, well, why not? Maybe he's never got to play music before.
Yeah, maybe he's like amazing at saxophone or, percussion,
Yeah, Sebastian teaches percussion. Just like a crab and like
Okay. I do want to say that there's like no Ariel mention. Where's Melody?
Where's Melody?
Where is Melody? All right, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not even there to be like Audrey's
But
side.
Ursula's daughter's there.
Yeah.
And Ursula's younger sister.
Ursula's whole extended family.
But Ariel doesn't even get a name drop or like a red or actually she's. Why wasn't Jane? Jane looks a lot like Melody.
Well, because she needs to be connected to the fairy godmother.
But she could have been Melody. And they could have got someone else to play Jane because she looks a lot like her. Anyway.
We also meet someone who looks a lot like me, or people used to tell me I looked like him, especially back in like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, I see some Cullen in there.
Yeah.
But he is probably objectively one of the worst characters. He's just like a terrible person.
Yeah, but he's also, I think he's one of the most fun. Like
absolutely, and the actor is having fun.
The actor's having fun.
Yes.
We meet Chad Charming. When people talk about Chads, this is where it originated from.
Yes, exactly.
It is a Chad Charming reference. So Chad is the daughter of Cinderella, the preppy one, allegedly. And
allegedly.
He is hot. He's got a castle, and he just sees Evie be good at school because she has her magic mirror, and he's like, meet me at the bleachers. And he's like, oh, I wish we'd spend time together, but I have all this homework. And she's like, oh, I could do it. He's like, oh, great. And she's like, you have a castle? And she just starts listing Cinderella, fairy godmother, Prince Charming. And it's like, is he just listing his family? I don't know. But he's obviously stringing her along, and Doug is like, I'm stalking you. Chad, you could do better than Chad. And she's like, I want a prince. And he's like, oh, the fairy godmother uses her wand at Ben's coronation.
You know what's also weird? This is going to the fourth movie. Fairy godmother looks nothing like Whitney Houston. All right. Anyway,
we meet. So Jane is being bullied by Mal.
Yes.
Mal is showing her evil. She's being manipulative. I actually like that they do let her be actually evil, and I wish they dealt with the repercussions of that a little more at times. But there is, so they're like, Jane, she's like, Jane, like she gives her nice hair because Jane's like, I have trouble making friends. And Mal's like, oh, we can be friends. Like, I'll do your hair, but I can't fix your nose, but your mom with her wand, just, give her a face. Doesn't she love you? Isn't that she did it for Cinderella?
It's like she's making some interesting points, but it does come out of nowhere. It's not like Jane is like picking on herself about these things and then Mal manipulates that. It's Mal creates these things. That's kind of how it comes off. And so it's like, that's like terrible.
Really fucked up. Yeah. Jane is like, she's just manipulating Jane. But then Mulan's daughter, Lonnie, is like, I want hair.
Criminal name. Another criminal name. Like, are all of these people so self-conceited that they just like name their children slightly the same? Like, not
Because
saying
there
that is
are,
always conceited, but like this whole world is like that. It's like that seems conceited.
yeah, I could see you could go with like Rory. That might be a cute, like, oh, she was named Aurora after her mom, but we call her Rory, you know,
Sure, but
or like
everyone,
Ashton, like Ash, Cinderella. You could play with it a little more,
yes,
you
okay, I like
know,
that.
like
Something a
even
little more
Gina, short
creative.
for Regina.
Love that.
Um, or like you could do something like Thorny, not the name Thorny, but like a thorn inspired name,
Mm.
like for Maleficent, for being the Beast's son, you could do something kind of like French,
Instead of
like,
Ben, which is like,
yeah, like there you could just do kind of like a French royal name, or like
name him Francis.
Francis, Louis, you
Lou.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever.
Like
It's just
Carlos
weird.
works. Like every once in a while I'm like, okay, I get that. You could do something kind of
You know what though? Dopey and Doug, it's just D's. There's no like relation there. You know what? I take back every mean thing I've ever said about Dopey. He's a real
uh,
one.
so Lonnie wants to be badass and edgy. She's Mulan's daughter. Everyone announces who they are, like in Percy Jackson, like who their parent is.
Yeah.
She rips, and then they give her hair. She rips her dress to be like, I'm edgy now. And
And
Jane does
then
it too. And Evie is doing homework for Chad.
yeah.
And Mal is like, this is why boys suck. And so Mal and Evie are not beating the compulsory heterosexuality allegations. They are a popular ship, and I get it.
Sure.
But Ben walks by and he's like, "Oh, just checking." And they're like, "Oh, like, can we go to your coronation and get the wand and like the wands there?" He's like, "Oh, on the dais." I don't remember what he uses, but I'm using dais because that's royal. Is my parents, my alive parents, who this is not how monarchy works. Okay, my alive parents, the fairy godmother, and my girlfriend. So, like Versailles, king's girlfriend's a job. It's a position.
Yes. It becomes the lady of the court.
Yeah. Much, like many a mistress was elevated. Uh, he is also helping Carlos learn about dogs because he's been traumatized by his mother to think dogs are rabid pack animals, and he's like, dogs are fun. And there is tension. Like when my friend saw this movie in college, they didn't think, again, there are lots of characters. They didn't realize this was the same Ben. They just thought it was a different guy. And they're like, oh, there's like a gay love story in this. Um, but no, and that's fine. But
But
we
there
get
is
Jude.
he does have sexual tension with literally everyone. You're
You
right.
know, it is one of the advantages, I guess, advantages, disadvantages of doing a franchise with a bunch of actors in their late teens and early 20s is that they're all at the very least flirting, if not more. That's just the vibe. Especially theater kids. So yeah, there's we meet Dude the dog who Carlos just hangs out with now because he needed an animal, he needed some love.
Hmm.
And he had the smallest arc because
Yeah.
he is very aware that was abused
Yes.
in a way that the other characters aren't and might never fully come to that realization. Um,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, so they're gonna make a love potion so Mal can be Ben's girlfriend. But they don't know how to cry. They've never cried before. They sound like Fox News anchors. Um, they and Lonnie comes in and she's like, "Oh, I used to love baking cookies with my mom with chocolate chips." People are like, weird choice to have Mulan be the cookie baker, but she
Yeah,
could learn. Yeah, why not?
sure. I
Um,
guess.
it's like, would it be better if it was something that was like Chinese parent specific? Maybe, but it could also be worse.
It could
This
definitely
is
be worse.
because some of these outfits, I don't know how I feel about them.
Yeah.
so then she's like, oh, like after you have a bad day, and she just makes you feel better. And that is something Mulan would do. It's like, for once, one of these people is acting in character. And she's watching them stare at her like they have no idea what's going on. And she's just like, oh, I just thought even villains love their kids, which is a brutal thing to say, but she does cry. She is like genuinely like upset that these kids are
She
looking at her
finally
like they don't know what
realized
love is.
she finally realized like, oh, they've all been abused, not just like, oh, they're just some kids from this other island. Like it becomes real for her.
and
Uh
and and this is my big theory. So this is again why it makes more sense for Philip and Aurora, because I could see Aurora, who is forcibly separated from her parents, being like, I don't want to separate families. I could see her having that policy, but I could see people like Cinderella being like, no, like don't leave these kids in a bad home. And that is an interesting conflict. So I could see like,
mm,
yes, I'm imagining the adult conflict in this, but it's like, again, I could see the reasoning. You could give Aurora being like, well, I wouldn't want to do to Maleficent's daughter what Maleficent did to me.
yeah.
And that again, it doesn't make up for what's happening, but that's a character
And
moment.
that's why they chose Belle and Beast, is because they have no skin in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. So meanwhile, Audrey distrusts the villain kids. So does Chad. To be fair, she's spray painting "Long Live Evil" on her locker. So, but Audrey's like, if everyone's hot, what about me? Um, and I did see, I have read part of a fanfic that actually played this in a very interesting way about like her suffocating under gender roles and like essentially she's being kind of devious because she has nothing else to do, which I thought was interesting. But Mal white guilts Ben into eating the cookie. I loved Disney does multiple musical race allegory trilogies, yet the main couple is always two white people. Um, and she's like, oh yeah, I guess you don't take food from a villain. Yeah, I mean it did knock Snow White out. So and he's like, oh no, I'll eat your roofied cookie. And he gets magic roofied. He feels like singing. They're like, don't, but he has to go to his tourney game. So he ate a roofie cookie before playing tourney. And that is someone who's
They
maybe
clearly
not been through that
they don't check for doping.
yeah. Because I could not, after being roofied, play
Yeah.
well,
Well, I
I
mean, this
have
isn't
worked out after I think I was, but then I felt like terrible. So I did not feel
yeah,
up to singing.
but this is not necessarily having the same effects.
True, true, true. It's magic.
It's well that, but also the roofie is debilitating. This is meant to change your mind and
Yeah.
your heart. The roofie
There's
is just debilitating.
Ben goes through a lot that they don't really adjust or talk about.
No,
But yeah,
and I it's kind of diabolical his reaction to when he realizes that he was
yeah.
magically roofied.
So
Um
he
the fact
sings
that she
Did I
doesn't
mention
go immediately back to the island is kind of crazy, but
kind of
whatever.
crazy. So Jay does well against the Sherwood Falcons. They're like, he's an athlete. That's his arc. He's good at this game. He does teamwork. He does an unselfish play. And
Yeah,
then
because didn't the coach teach him? He's like, having a team is like, your the arms and legs need each other, and he's like, think about it like you're one body.
he's like, and
Um,
I'm the fist.
yes.
He sings Did I Mention? He's like, give me an M, give me an. So he's making his current girlfriend, who's a cheerleader, spell out the name of the girl he's about to dump her for in front of the whole community. And everyone, I guess, hates Audrey because no one feels bad for her.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's not the nicest, so like fair, but
Yeah. She
he
becomes the queen of mean.
yeah, he does a Disney Channel strip tease where he like removes his top layer. And I was like, oh wow,
This
2015
movie's
Disney.
so horny.
And he sings the song. It's a fun little song. And he sings how he's in love with her. And then Audrey, he's like, I'm dating Mal. And then Audrey's like, well, I'm dating Chad. And they kisses him, and then Evie feels bad. Now, here's the thing: is that we will talk about this, but this like Audrey's character, with what they decided they were doing with her later, they really fumbled it hard in this movie because she could have actually had a very cool, interesting arc. And instead, it's just kind of a preps are bad because Aurora and Cinderella are blonde pastel preps, and so their kids are shallow.
Yeah.
And yeah. So okay, let's see. Okay, so Mel and Ben go on this date. Evie gives her a little makeover. She talked about she's never had a strawberry. Her middle name's Bertha. His is Florian, which is a semi-canonical name for Snow White's husband. So maybe Belle also has a side piece. Maybe all the Disney princes and princesses are swingers.
Oh my God.
I could see
I
it.
could see it.
Yeah, I'm like, honestly, I could see it. So they go on this picnic, and he's like, I didn't, we're swimming. And I'm like, if someone took me on a date and didn't tell me that we were swimming, I'd
I'd
end
be
up on that
horrified.
I'd end up on that island for murder. So I'm like, wow, shirtless in a Disney movie? It's
Ecom?
like, so in the dumbest swimming shorts I've ever seen with his crest, he goes swimming, he does a beast roar, which I hate whenever he does that.
Hate it.
And she sings If Only. And we get a montage of things that have literally happened like 2 minutes ago or less. And it's hysterical.
You warned me about that because I had complained about that in something else. And you're right. That was very funny.
And it's a shame because I do actually kind of like that song. It's the first time, it gives you an insight into her struggle because Mal suffers from being a very reactionary character for most of this franchise. There's not a lot she wants.
Yeah.
She thinks he's drowning though. She goes looking for him and she can't swim, and that's evidence of an innate goodness. And that's a fair assessment, right? That she doesn't want people to die. And that's a important part of being good. Meanwhile, Evie is turned in. Oh, he also says like "I love you" on their like first date, and it's like, girl doesn't.
He says it in that song.
Yeah, I'm like, girl's never even had a strawberry before.
That's
She's not ready to commit to love.
Yeah, that's like red flag.
And you could say he's under a spell, but
spoilers.
Meanwhile,
he's not anymore.
Evie's turned in by Chad for cheating. And but Doug is like, hey, she can do it, and he's gonna help her study. And I'm just gonna sum this up. She does do it. She gets a B+, and he's like, Doug's like, you're smart, you're great, you don't need a prince. And she is a smart girl. She's also good at style. Like when Lonnie wants her hair, Evie's like, oh, there's so much we could do. And they portray it very well. Like I think Evie is a very like, it's not like she's the most complicated character in the world, but it's a very like her arc.
She's one of the better written characters for sure.
Yeah. It's like she is a great teen character, and I get why my cousin as his child had multiple Evie themed birthdays because she's fun.
I salute.
Yeah, the VKs are happy with their life, and they're
okay.
plotting.
Hold on a second. We can't keep calling them VKs yet. We can't do that until the third.
Is it the second movie?
I think it's the third movie. I think it was today that the VK thing happened.
I'm just going with it. I hate it, but
I hate it
here we are. So they're happy with their life. They don't want Mal's looking to how to break the spell because she's like, when the villains break in and destroy all that is good and beautiful, I don't want him, like, it seems extra mean for him to still be in love with me.
Yeah, and I think Evie's like, oh, so you're like good.
Yeah, and she sings a sad reprise, and her own tear can make the cookie. And this is very, again, it's like their parents are abusive, and now they're in a world where they're not being abused, and they don't want to destroy it, and they can have their own lives with their own interests. But now it's time for Family Day, where the villains don't know how to work a Zoom call.
Love that.
Which is hysterical.
You know what's funny about it, the fact that they can't work it, is that they can't see them on the screen. On their screen is blank, but they can be seen by the others and heard by the others. And I don't think that's a thing that can actually happen.
Their parents are more concerned with making fun of the fairy godmother. Like, you really couldn't give Cinderella till 1 a.m. You know, are you still doing stuff with cucumbers and hamsters? And they're also more concerned with like, oh, I can't wait to get my hand on that magic. You know, they're so unsubtle. Um, and Cruella freaks out that Carlos has a dog, and he's like,
Yeah.
this dog is great. He's my friend. You lied to me. And so things are escalating and the parents are yelling at, and Jay just turns it off because Jay's like the protective one of the group.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, no, we're done. And the fairy godmother's like, oh, I'm sorry. Because so you get this vibe that they kind of thought, oh, you know, like they're family to each other. They care about each other. And
And then she
again,
realized, oh, they were all abused.
yeah, again, as someone whose main claim to fame is saving someone from being abused, you'd think you'd have a little bit more of a radar.
Yeah.
But I think something that we're going to have to discuss in this franchise is no one actually knows Cinderella's life. They just think she showed up to a ball one day. But yet the step family is on the island.
On the Isle.
But there seems to be a huge disconnect. We get a cover of Be Our Guest, though. An acapella cover.
I'm gonna say a 2 out of 10.
A 2 out of 10.
Yeah. I didn't like the Hamiltonification of these films.
So something that exists in this universe now. France. They say after all, Miss, this is France.
True. So what is Oradon? Where are they?
France is somewhere. So also we get a new character. It's been a while since I put someone on the board. We meet Queen Leah, who that is a fandom name for Sleeping Beauty's mom that I've always been like, that's a dumb one. And this movie canonized it. Also, though, the first Disney media to give a shit about how that woman felt about anything.
True.
But we get to explore the impacts of evil here. She's like, oh, who are you? You look familiar. And Audrey's like, don't talk to her unless you want to take 100-year nap. I'm like, Sleeping Beauty, Disney Sleeping Beauty didn't sleep for 100 years. Girl, get your facts straight.
Yeah. What is your mom telling you?
And then she's like, oh, you're back? And then they're like, no, it's her daughter. So this calls into question again how old Maleficent was when this curse was happening. But she's like, you're giving them what? A chance to destroy us? She's like, my daughter was raised by fairies. Her first steps, her first words, I missed it all. So we see this, that like, it was hard for her, as it would be. And we see she's like, don't you all remember the poison apples, the attack? So like these people are all kind of collectively traumatized by these villains that were running around. And then Chad escalates it. I come in and I make everything worse. Sorry, actually, I'm not Chad. I'm Bob, the son of bowler hat guy. But he comes in and is like, what do you think villains teach their kids? Kindness, fair play. Jay likes to attack people. Mouse will know the girl's boyfriend. Evie is a gold digger and a cheater. And
that was
brutal.
Uncalled for.
That was WICKED. And
yes,
she's like, mirror, mirror in my hand, who's the biggest jerk in all the land? And she shows in the mirror, and he's like, and he kind of smacks her hand, and Jay's like, no, you're not smacking one of like my family, essentially.
Yeah.
And he then starts fighting, and so she was given a perfume thing, like a sleeping spell for the limo driver later in their plot, and she just sprays him and puts him to sleep for like a total of 10 seconds. And they're like, oh my God, Chad, Audrey doesn't even drop her drink to help him. She's holding, but Doug and Lonnie are with them too. And then Ben's like, it's not their fault. And Beast is like, yeah, it's yours. And I'm like, well, I really hate Beast.
Well, actually, let me just say, it is not your 16-year-old son's fault. It's your fault for making your 16-year-old make a political decision like that. Yeah. Psycho.
Yeah, you do an apartheid and then leave a 16-year-old in charge to fix it. Psychotic, you deserve to be a beast. Belle also, he's like, oh, meet my new girlfriend, Mal. And they're kind of shocked, but they're trying to be nice. And Belle is like, Audrey was like a kiss up. And like me, like she instantly drags Audrey. And I'm like, and so at first it was like not my Belle, because Belle is very kind. But, Belle does love to drag the provincial.
That's true.
So I guess, but wow. No grace for her. I mean, she's
Mm-mm.
not a nice girl. She's not. But I do want to point out again, Cinderella was raised by villains. So Chad, again, Cinderella's children don't know her life. And that's crazy to me because that's what she's famous for. That's why she has a city named after her. The kids are being bullied, and Doug sides with Chad. Chad's like, Doug, no. And I'm like, I don't think your parents hang out. Like, what? But I do kind of like the implication that these kids all go way back. And so as much as like they might be like, oh, cool new people, like they're entrenched together.
Yeah.
Again, things you could explore in a series. Jane is bullying them now, so Mal takes away her hair and everyone freaks out and runs away. Yeah. So they run away and they're like, we're gonna take it over because we're rotten to the core.
Ugh.
This brings us to the coronation in the Oridon Cathedral, and we meet Snow White, who's the news reporter and is bullying a child about her hair. They have like the same haircut.
Yeah, bullying a child about her hair when it's like, ma'am, as if you have room to talk.
Yeah. And I'm also like, not my Snow White. Snow White would get up there and be like, everyone looks so good. Like, everyone's so cute. Like, oh my God, they're adorable. Like,
Because
but
again, she's talking about children.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
And like, the only person Snow White ever roasted was Grumpy for being a misogynist, feminist queen. So they're all gathered. The villains are watching. They're waiting for the ceremony. Mal is in the carriage and she gives Ben a cookie and is like, oh, just eat this like a little snack for after you're done. Low blood sugar. That's not what she says, but it'd make more sense if she did. And he's like, oh, he takes a bite. He's like, yeah. Oh, the love spell was already broken. And Mal's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, what? And he's like, yeah, I swam in an enchanted lake that removed the spell. So did he have a suspicion? But then he's like, yeah, I just, you wanted to be with me because I'm so hot. And I was with Audrey and her feelings really don't matter. So
Yeah,
great.
it's
Dude, you just made a kid.
it doesn't make sense. Like, he was violated. Like, that's really what that is. If we had reversed the gender roles of this, criminal. But because it's a girl doing it to a guy, it's like, oh, but also she was doing it for an even worse reason. But like, he just accepts it and he's like, that's fine. Clearly he didn't care about Audrey at all, which is red flag.
Red flag.
And he also didn't care about the fact that he embarrassed her in front of everyone, that Audrey girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just doesn't care, and Mal just gets away with it.
Yeah, and if the genders were reversed, it'd be an 80s movie.
Yeah.
Something Reagan and Thatcher would be proud of.
And that's what, 2015, right? So that's before Me Too stuff. But even like a girl doing it to a guy, there's a lot of that still, like sexual harassment and assault a woman to a man is different somehow. So there's also, it reeks of that too. So like, yeah,
so yeah,
I don't know.
He's just chill with it. Also, in the church, there's a stained glass window of Quasimodo, Hunchback of Notre Dame. So he exists, meaning the Catholic Church is an institution in Oridon, or it was. So it's time for the coronation, and he gets coronated, and someone grabs the wand. I'm not even looking at my notes at this point. But then
Jane grabs the wand, right?
Jane's like, I want to make over, but she acts. I'm like, girl, you're gonna do that in public.
And also the terrible timing. Jane, come on.
Jane, yeah, and she shoots it, and it breaks the barrier, and Maleficent is immediately off. She does a Wicked Witch of the West style cackle. Like, that's not Maleficent.
Kristen, you're in the wrong movie.
Wrong movie. And so she shows up. I'm back, but before this, Mal gets the one from Jane, and Audrey's like, "See, I told you," and it's like, that's not what's happening, girl. And she's like, Ben's like, you can be good. And Mel's like, I don't have a choice. And so it's about free will. He's like, you do have a choice to be good. And she's like, I want to be good. She's like, you make me happy. Life here makes me happy. Evie, you love like the fashion and the life here and doing your school and like that you can do this on your own. Jay loves getting pizza with the team, and you hear random voices back go like, yeah. It's like saying Divas High rules. And you get they're like, Carlos, you love dogs. And so they're like, oh yeah, we don't want to be evil. But Maleficent shows up, freezes everyone before the fairy godmother, who's useless, can do anything. And Flora and Fauna, because magic is frowned on. So I guess
Yes.
Flora, Fauna, Merryweather, Merlin, Genie, not to be found. So she's gonna take over. She kind of hits on the beast a little bit. Kristen Chenoweth is just chewing the scenery, and good for her. But Mal's like, no, I don't want you to have the wand. And so Maleficent turns into a dragon to murder her own child and her friend's kids. And they do the eye magic with the power of 4 hearts as one and friendship. And they shrink her down into the size of the love in her heart, which is a lizard.
Yeah.
And now the fairy godmother's like, well, maybe someday she'll learn to love. I'm like, where was this when you were making a prison colony? And she's like, don't go too hard on Jane. I put those thoughts in her head. And
Jane forgives her.
yeah. And Audrey forgives her. And at least in this movie. And then they're like, let's get this party started. Oh, way, oh, way, oh. And they sing Set It Off, which we did do that dance in college. Not the full, obviously we didn't learn the full choreo, but they do this like cotillion kind of like hand-holdy thing. And we would like do that because we just thought it was funny.
It's weird.
Our couples in this final number, we have Evie and Doug, Mal and Ben. Audrey approaches Jay, and Chad and Lonnie, I guess. And then Carlos and Jay cheer Jane up, and she dances with Carlos. So they sing Set It Off, lots of mullet dresses, gold and blue fireworks. And Mal's like, that's not the end of the story.
Yeah, and her eyes are green. And I'm like, oh, that
Yeah.
bitch is evil. She's so evil. She's actually evil.
Well, maybe.
No,
I don't know.
she's just blonde.
She's just blonde. So let's I want to shout out to some characters that were cut from this movie. We have Aziz, Aladdin and Jasmine's son. He was cast. He filmed stuff, but he's gone. And then announced was Anna Lexon and Excellin or something, Rapunzel's daughter. Rapunzel and Flynn's daughter. R.I.P. to her. She was cut, which was probably for the best because in the internet fandom at the time, Tangled fans were ruthless, and they still kind of are because they're really bitter about the success of Frozen, and they're like, and I say this as someone who likes Tangled. It's a great movie, beautiful.
Yes.
And they get crazy. And so I just feel like if someone implied something bad about Rapunzel at this time, it would have not gone well the way they could imply about the other characters.
At this time
in 2015.
Not good.
Okay. So let's think about our aesthetics. Who's good? Who's evil? What do they act like? What do they look like? Who do you like as we finish this movie? And who do you think is good and who do you think is evil?
I don't like any of these characters yet. I think it takes the second movie for me to really start to like them. I mean, I don't know. Like Audrey is someone that I flagged instantly oh, she's going to be a baddie. And then she wasn't in the second movie. Then she was in the third movie. Because her and Chad are both they're not good people. The Audrey in the third movie is sus to me. Maybe it's because the second movie she wasn't there. She was there in name only. They're manipulative, and from the VKs, that's something that I could expect from Mal because of that, but because Audrey's supposed to be a good guy, Chad's supposed to be a good guy, it's no, they're actually not good guys.
And they're very preppy, they're very put together.
I also thought Jane was gonna be a baddie.
Jane
I thought
was,
the whole being the fairy godmother's daughter was gonna turn her into a bad witch type situation. Which would have been cool.
Yeah. Magic is very strange. They're like, oh, we don't really focus on that anymore, but it's not explicit.
They got rid of magic in both worlds essentially because they know that magic is a weapon.
Yeah.
And it can be weaponized. They don't want any kind of weapons. because they know
And
what they're doing and Ordon is wrong. So like no one gets magic. Fairy Godmother only
yeah,
gets it on the coronation.
yeah, there's a lot to unpack with the magic stuff. Yeah, I would say I like in this movie, I like Evie and Carlos. I guess sort of Ben, but none of the good kids or whatever really seem that good. But to me, it's kind of frustrating because you could do something a little more complicated with ethics, but instead it's just like shallow
Well,
preps.
yeah, and I also think it's a lot of like privileged people discovering people who aren't privileged.
Yeah,
And that's uncomfy. So
it
like
is uncomfy.
Lonnie, Ben, like those characters kind of rub me the wrong way in the first movie
Yeah,
because that's essentially what the movie is. Like it's the good people realizing, oh, these kids
are
didn't have
underprivileged, but
yeah.
their parents made them that way. Like the good parents, good in quotations.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked Lonnie when she felt bad for them and cried. Like I'm like, oh, that's very sweet. But because the Disney Channel movie and they can't be subtle, she has to say, I just thought even villains love their kids. Whereas
Yeah.
you know, and I can't, that's more of a genre thing or a medium thing. Whereas in another movie, you could just have her be shocked and like go on a face journey. Bless you.
Yeah, face journey.
Um, we're gonna talk about some doll drama.
Oh,
Okay.
Hasbro.
I'm going to talk. Yep, the shout out. So I'm going to talk as quickly as I can about this because we have so much to talk about. And Ever After High is its own whole thing. But so Mattel, they had the Disney license. They made but they started to make their dolls kind of shitty, and Disney didn't like that. And then they started doing Ever After High, which is a world of fairy tale characters going to school and they all have to fulfill their parents' destiny. And this is a generational cycle, which does not make sense when you really think about it. I know it's a very
Yeah.
beloved, but like just logistically, so like Cinderella's life, like Ashlyn Ella, like she will marry and then she will die young and her daughter will be abused and that's considered a happy ending and that's like a continuous cycle. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But the whole point is like they are told that if they don't do this, their stories vanish. So the main conflict is there's Raven Queen, who's the daughter of the evil queen, and Apple White, who's the daughter of Snow White, and there's the royals versus the rebels. And the rebels want to do their own destiny, and the royals want to fulfill their legacy. So Disney was like, you're spending all this money on these characters and not ours, and then they want to do Descendants. So they kind of split ways. I'm summing this up so quickly. And there's lots of things going on. And then they went to Hasbro, and Hasbro was trying to emphasize not the princesses as like glitter queens, but as like, look, they're characters and they're diverse and they have different hobbies and interests. And so they made these kind of dolls here. And then Descendants came out and Ever After High, which was already kind of struggling, disappeared. But recently, after Hasbro got lazy, the license went back to Mattel.
Interesting.
It's confusing. It's just like as much as this movie as Descendants gives a lot of like, well, what about this or that? I feel like Ever After High gives me even more.
Was there like media to go along with these
There is a
dolls?
web series. There's web series and
Okay.
web movies. And so people really stan them and are like, this is so much better than Descendants. And I just think that's well, it's not Disney kind of attitude. And I think like
Mhm.
Shannon Hale, who went to prom with my writing professor, wrote some of the books. She's a great author. So it's not like there is some interesting stuff there. It's just, again, wild.
As a concept, I think it is kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know.
We could talk about that forever, but we got 3 more movies.
Oh boy. Are you doing a outfit change now?
Hi, I'm Mark, the son of Meriwether. As you can see from my conflicting pink and blue,
Oh, that does not read pink on
it
camera.
does it on camera. I guess then I should be Eli, the son of Princess Ilanwi. You think my father is Taryn, but it's revealed in the 3rd movie. It's Jim Hawkins from Treasure Planet.
That's fantastic.
So we did Descendants 1. Now we're gonna talk Descendants 2. This is when they really are trying to be like, we're in Trump's America. How do we deal with the implications of what we created? It opens with the number one banger of the series, Ways to Be Wicked, which
Banger? Interesting.
to me, it is infinitely better than Rotten to the Core.
Yes.
But if you were like, Cullen, you need to readapt Descendants, what's your opening number? I'd do Ways to Be Wicked.
Yeah, because I don't think it fits in the second movie.
No. It's just like a fantasy. Good. Yeah, it's a fantasy Mal is having, but she has a fantasy where they
true.
Like Lucifer, they give people apples and they become sinners.
Uh-huh.
And so we got all the ways to be WICKED. It's a fun number, but it's, for my friends who were, I was like, I've seen Descendants 1, now we're gonna watch Descendants 2. They hadn't seen the first one. They were like, quite the intro.
I mean, I saw the first one, watched the second one the next day, and I was like, whoa. It felt like getting hit with 2 softballs in the face.
2 poison apples to the face.
2 poison apples to the face. Jarring opening, because at least first one has the voiceover to guide us in the iPad, of course. And the third one also has a voiceover. But the second one, it's just right into a music number. And I'm like, what's happening? They're evil? What? Where's Mal? Where is she to guide me?
Yeah, no guide. But they did do this song. I'm pretty sure they did this song on Dancing with the Stars. So
who did?
The cast. They promoted the movie and they did the song.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Culture. So
I was hoping you were gonna say that it was JoJo Siwa's season.
Someone did say that this movie they're talking about Uma's Pirates. They're like, this is what JoJo Siwa thinks she is. And I died because I do think people dogpile on JoJo Siwa, but I was like, that's accurate. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah. Mal is blonde. She's basically just Duff Cameron.
She is just Duff Cameron with like a little bit of purple on the ends.
And she's being Princess Diana. And everyone's like, Meghan Markle,
as far as we can tell, there's no plot to assassinate her. No. Allegedly.
Allegedly. Hannah, my people have suffered enough at the hands of that monarchy. Don't send them after me. Sorry, no, I'm a monarchist now. I'm the son of Princess
Ilan. Wait, so you're a Welsh?
I'm a Welsh monarch.
Yeah.
So she talks about spilling curry on herself. When she met #Gelatin.
Yeah, this whole sequence of like the news talking about like her and what's his name, Ben, kind of making the rounds around Oradon.
We're gonna go in a little less chronological order, A, because time, and B, because I have trouble keeping track of the order of things in this one. Basically, Mal's plot, right? She is stressed because she doesn't fit in. She doesn't think she fits in.
Yeah.
And so she has these like green eye flashes that are like Hulk outs, where she essentially just wants to like go ballistic on people's ass. Like she just wants to beat Jane the fuck up for asking all these questions about party favors at Cotillion, which is this event where her and Lonnie, who's still here, they describe it as engaged to be engaged to be engaged. And like, can she drive? She's gonna be engaged.
Child engagement, yeah, like pre-engagement. Yeah, disturbing. But also, she's considering like, I'm just like, sometimes I just feel like being evil to people. It's like having like a mood swing is not evil. It's your brain chemistry trying to work itself out, especially as a teenager. But like,
true,
even if she was an adult, it's like, it's not always because you're evil. It could be because you have depression and anxiety, and that messes with your brain chemistry, or you have bipolar disorder.
You had a traumatic upbringing and are now thrust at the spotlight of a
Yeah, like
society.
and so like it's understandable to have like a mood swing or like to, you know, want to yell at someone,
Yeah.
like it's not nice, but it's not evil,
Yeah. And so, I mean, the difference between
like
nice and evil is something and good, something Oradon struggles with for sure.
yeah, because again, like not to say that this movie is like villainizing mental illness, but she has anxiety and it's kind of like she's misinterpreting it, but the movie's not saying that like
Yeah.
it's bad to have a mental illness.
Well, this is where we
So,
fall into the good and evil as aesthetic because she just misses evil vibes.
yeah.
But, okay, so she's stressed about that. She's speed reading her homework. She's using her spell book to speed
Again,
read.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If she's going to be learning, good. Then she can learn
Yeah.
more.
I wish I could have used magic to speed up preparing for this video podcast.
Exactly.
I was like, relatable queen. And Evie's like, your spell book belongs in the museum. And I'm like,
Indiana Jones who?
yeah. And so Mal is just trying to do
Oh, can we
everything.
talk about that museum where they have all these weird artifacts of their stories? And I was like, it's like they're treating their personal lives as history, as culture. And it's
Yeah.
because it's not like something that happened 400 years ago, it happened 15 to 20 years ago. Feels very weird.
It feels like these people are all egomaniacs because they also name their children after themselves
Yes.
without the balls to or the badge to fully name, just be like, you're Aurora the second,
Yeah, I don't know.
So they're Mal's stressing. Ben is like, I bought you a bike, I'm the prince, so this is paid for with US, United States of Oregon tax
USA.
dollars. And then we're going to a picnic for our anniversary where you're making all my favorite foods. And I'm like, Oregon is really trapped in the 50s. Which adds,
Yes.
that's why I talk about those 50s ads, right? The aesthetic of good and wholesome is 50s. It's gender roles.
And that she not only has to make all his favorite foods, she has to do it while also planning cotillion, which gross, hate cotillion, and also do her homework and classes and stuff like that. It's like,
Yeah.
and be a diplomat.
A lady of the court. I mean, we used to do cotillion in homeschool world.
Uh-huh. It gives me the creeps because it has some connotations.
Yeah. She says to Carlos, don't you just miss like screaming and yelling at people and being evil? And he's like, no, because that was my mom and she was usually doing that to me.
To me, yep.
That is one of the
Yep.
most important lines in this franchise to me. Because
Absolutely.
he's like, I recognize that I was abused and my mom was toxic and I received her abuse. And all this, it's fun to be evil, it's fun to be wicked, comes at a cost. And that cost was my sanity as a small child, my
Yeah.
sanity, health, and safety.
And hers, because again, she's like, God, I wish I could just scream at someone, but I know I shouldn't do that. It's like, well, honey, that's your brain chemistry, not necessarily that you're a bad person.
Yeah. I do appreciate that line because the third movie will forget it. And
Absolutely.
so they go on the picnic and they're having this picnic and she's all stressed, or he's like, oh, I got food on myself. It's all just the food from the Be Our Guest song. And he gets something on himself and he goes to find a napkin. He finds the spell book and he's like, oh my gosh, are you
Because
trying to
she
use
said that
magic?
she was supposed to have turned it into fairy godmother.
Yeah.
And so she's been lying about that.
And she proceeds to try and mind wipe him. This man, like, that's not a red flag. That flag is on fire. That is no flag because the flag burned to a crisp. She's trying to mind erase you. And she already love spelled you, which, she's trying to please her evil mom. Okay, fool me once.
Shame on
But
me. Fool me
yeah.
twice, well, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. He does not bat an eye at the fact that he was about to be memory wiped, because the other thing is that he doesn't know if she did this before. We don't know if she's done this before.
Yeah. But he is like, did you just try and spell me right now? And is like, and she's like, yeah, this is all a lie. I'm not a pretty prep princess. I'm not a pretty princess. I'm like, you need to get over your Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way symptoms. Obviously he knows that about you. You were spray
I don't
painting
know.
Long
Does
Live
he?
Evil.
They
Yeah,
don't
to be
ever talk
fair,
about anything.
they're they're such a mess of a couple. I don't really ship them, to be honest. Like they're cute at
Yeah.
times. Um,
But this gets to this is my first inclination of, this is not an accurate teenage relationship. This is through the lens of an adult, right? Very
yeah.
obviously. I really don't think that this comes off as genuine. It just really doesn't.
Also, I think Mal is a bad person. I think she's bad in that
She's,
she is incredibly selfish,
yeah.
and that is kind of the root of all, right? Like you don't
And it would be
compared.
interesting if they actually explored that.
Yeah,
But again, like, she's a protagonist and she needs to be like, because it's a decom, we need to be 100% behind her.
and
But
again, it's good and evil as aesthetics, not exploring the root
yes,
causes of good and evil, because Evie is very concerned about others in general. She has her own
absolutely.
hobbies, interests, goals, and stuff, but she is cares about other
She
people.
cares. Yeah.
She reveals it was just a PB&J, and he's like, I love PB&J, but she's like, I'm a fraud, and she takes her mom, who's still lizard, and goes to the island.
I also don't think there's anything wrong with the fact that she used magic to make food.
Yeah,
Like, again, like, yeah, she's tricking him into thinking that it's something else when really it's PB&J. But it's like, teach a girl to do
that's
magic, and she can turn
yeah.
PB&J into a 5 course meal. That's impressive to me. Like, imagine the budget. You live on a PB&J budget, but you eat on a cotillion budget because
Yeah.
it's just PB&J, but bippity boppity boo, it's something else. Wonderful.
She's going back to the island. What's going on with everybody else? Evie is running a successful dress business, outfit
Mhm.
business, designing outfits for a cotillion. Chad is upset that Audrey broke up with him, and he thinks she'd be with him if he was king, which he's not wrong there, to be honest. And
Yeah,
so Evie is willing to milk that to make some money. And Doug
good for
does
her.
spreadsheets. He's a chem that his job is spreadsheets, and they run their little business, and she's going to be able to be a homeowner. She's never
As
tasted
a
avocado
16-year
toast
old.
in her life.
Good, you know what? Because that's it. That's the root of all evil, is avocado toast.
Yeah, so she's going to be a 16-year-old homeowner. She's going to get a starter castle, as she later calls it. Can't be me. Good for her.
Yeah.
I should have learned how to design
A
clothes for
starter
royalty.
anything would be great
uh,
at this point.
that's her plot. And then Jay is on the swords and shields, I think, but it's fencing, but it's like also like parkour. And he's on
Yeah.
the team with Chad. He's the captain, and a mysterious fighter comes in and is better than everyone. Plot twist: it's Lonnie, but Chad is like, according to the rule book, she can't be on the team, and Jay's
There's a
like, I'm good.
captain and 8 men.
Jay's like, well, I guess I gotta follow the rules. Coach put me in charge. And Lonnie's like, if my mom thought like that, she would have lost the war.
Yeah, she doesn't mention that her mother, the war.
The war, the slaughtering, that was happening.
hmm She doesn't say that, like, she could have
China?
lost
Question
all of
mark.
China. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so what war is this? What is the context? And
Also,
it is
again, the war that they're referencing in the actual Mulan movie happened so long ago, but it happened
20 years ago.
20 to 30 years ago.
And that is wild. Like, I feel like if those were the rules at the school, Mulan herself would show up and be like, fairy godmother, what the fuck? Like, Mulan would
Yeah.
not let that stand for her daughter.
Mm-mm. Nope.
No. Neither would Belle, to be honest.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
not to get to the spoilers, but the spoiler is that rule doesn't ever change. Jay just finds a loophole. So they don't
Yeah.
actually win in the end. Anyway.
No. Jay is also a playa. Like, all the girls are into him.
Yeah.
And so he's not going to take a date to Cotillion so then he can dance with everyone. Carlos is down bad, crying
For
at the
Jane.
gym. For Jane, yeah. And
This is a relationship that I believe is a genuine teenager relationship.
they're so cute.
It's adorable. It doesn't feel like an adult trying to write a teenage relationship or a teenage relationship that has been matured beyond what it really would be. So I appreciate it. And it's adorable in this movie and in the next.
And she is so pretty.
So
They're both
beautiful.
such
They're
a
both
beautiful couple.
adorable.
So,
Yeah.
so he's all like, he doesn't know how to talk to her, and she's so busy planning for Cotillion. And he's like, oh, everyone keeps talking about it. She's like, oh my gosh, tell me about it. I'm so sick. I don't want to hear anyone talk to me about Cotillion. Since Audrey is on a spa vacation with Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather.
Her lesbian surrogate mothers.
I have to run everything because I guess this was something Audrey would help with before. And so Jane is just stressed. She's busy. And Carlos is like, oh, yeah. She's like, it's so great to have a friend that also doesn't want to talk about this stuff. She also is helping Ben pick out the right green glass for the Mal stained glass window. Because like each princess gets a stained glass window, I guess. These traditions,
Sure.
I'm like, where did these come from? Yeah. Carlos is all like, oh, I don't know how to ask her out. I need a truth gummy for my stressed out friend Mal. So she has a panic attack in front of him, and he's like, where's my truth gummy? And he gives him the truth gummy, and then the dog eats it, and now the dog can talk. Dude, did I even put dude on the board? Oh, there he is. Yeah, dude talks, and sorry, Bobby Moynihan, but it contributes like nothing.
Oh, that's who it is. Bobby Moynihan.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's what's going on with Carlos. And Mal leaves Evie a note that she went to the island. What's going on Isle of the Lost? We meet.
Well, also, I think we should mention that she finds a loophole to get back to the island. She uses like her spell book and drives that new bike across the water. It makes like not only does it make like it allows her to go across the water to get to the island, there's somehow an opening to get into the island, the barrier.
That's a strange thing. Yeah.
That's a plot hole that doesn't ever get filled, but you know.
We meet Uma, daughter of Ursula, who I think her brief appearance. Ooh, Uma. That song is a bop. She is upset because Mal is living this perfect life of privilege, and Mal is her old bully. She's called her Shrimpy. And now Uma's a pirate who works at Ursula's fish and chip shop, which is weird when you think about it. And
again, they serve sushi at the Little Mermaid premiere.
Yes, and she is with
the horniest character ever.
The horniest character in all of media. And he is this Harry Hook, Thomas Doherty. He played the vampire in The Invitation.
Yes.
And he was dating Dove Cameron at the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like before the movie, or?
I think so.
Oh, fascinating.
And so he's the son of Captain Hook. So Peter Pan exists. Also, Ariel and Eric, let's add them to the list of people who are like, okay with this.
They're in the world somewhere. Melody, not to be found. 404 not found.
404. We also get Gil, Gaston's son, who's a bit of a himbo.
Yes.
Gaston is in this universe. So they're saying, what's my name? He keeps bringing up that she was called Shrimpy, and so Uma's pissed. Harry is very scantily clad for a decom. He never has sleeves, and Jade also doesn't have sleeves, but Harry does it in a sluttier way. Sorry to slut shame. but he is so
It's all
horny.
the
And so
eyeliner and the Scottish accent that does it.
yeah, Uma is like, I'm gonna get revenge on Mal for like leaving us all here and like having that life. But Mal goes back to the island, and you do see a restaurant that's owned by Shan Yu. So the child killer,
What? They resurrected Shan Yu
I guess, yeah. Let's put him at the very bottom where he
where he
belongs.
belongs. Yeah.
Justice for that little girl.
Crazy.
So yeah, she's there. And she's like goes back to her lair, but she's like, I can't be blonde. Blonde is preppy. So she goes to the Curl Up and Die, which is such a great name, hair salon.
Yeah, I really wish that there was a goth hair salon in the real world named that.
It is where she sees Dizzy, who's literally just like, where's Evie?
Yeah.
And she is the daughter of Drizella Tremaine and granddaughter of Lady Tremaine.
Mm-hmm.
So
and this is Lady Tremaine's salon, basically. Or it's Drizella's salon. But Lady Tremaine lives above it. Drizella, not found. Lady Tremaine, eventually found.
There's a lot of Cinderella characters in this.
Yeah.
She's like, I need bangs. I need to be purple. Dizzy is like, this look sucks. And so Dizzy redoes her look. She gets an evil makeover. And Dizzy just loves the idea of Auradon. And she makes over Mal. And then Harry comes in to rob Dizzy. And he's like, oh, Mal's back. And he's being super horny. And she puts gum on his phallic hook.
Which he's just holding. It's not like he's missing a hand. Just want to point that out. He's just holding
he just has
it.
These people are obsessed with their parents. Like, imagine if I just walked around with like a brush because my dad's an artist.
And I wore a Target uniform or something.
Alex from Target. So yeah, Dizzy is basically living Cinderella's life. You know, she's being abused. So again, why is this allowed? Mal is like, I'll fight Shrimpy, whatever. I'm a bad girl. I have bangs. And
I'm a bad bitch. You can't kill me.
You can't kill me. That everyone else goes after her. Evie, Ben, Jay, and Carlos. They go there. They're like, Ben needs to learn to fit in because he's too nice and friendly. So they sing the absolute Halloween banger, Chillin' Like a Villain. I do Descendant songs do make it on my Halloween playlist.
That doesn't shock me at all.
So Chillin' Like a
this one is like, it's palatable. Like it's fine because it's actually has meaning in the movie. There are a lot of songs that they have that have no meaning. Like Rotten to the Core, it's just like, you could have told me that with context and not a stupid song.
Yeah.
Like this song is actually, I think this movie and the third movie do better with the songs to make them mean something.
Yes.
But this one is like you gotta fit in song, and like it's fine. Yeah.
The choreo's fun, very Michael Jackson-y.
Yes.
And the cast just, they have good chemistry, right? So it's fun, except it's always bad whenever Ben sings, but I can't sing either. So, so they go to the lair and Ben's like, you have to come back. I love you. Do you love me? And it's like, she's in the middle of a breakdown. Not the time.
Why are you pressuring her about this? Yeah. And also when they tell her like, oh yeah, the cotillion is basically the engagement of engagements for whatever. That's the first time that she's finding out that that's going to be her role if she is his girlfriend. And it's like, I would be freaking out too.
And she doesn't have a parent
to talk to about any of this. Or to help her consent,
Which I'm going to say, and I think this is why Chad turned out the way he did, I think the real evil is boarding school.
Yeah.
Just because these kids could all benefit from a parental figure. Like, if we're going to send Evie into this kingdom, who is Belle, her guardian? Like, why not Snow White or somebody in her like, is there no one to be like, oh, I'm going to look after these kids, make sure they're okay? It's just, And then boarding school, being surrounded by a bunch of peers without like adult intervention, you can end up with people like Audrey and Chad who are just so enveloped in the world of their school and status that they're not like normal
Real
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chad is not like Cinderella, which is kind of the point, right? Is that people are different than their parents. But where was I? Okay, yeah. So
They're in the lair.
they're in the lair, which they did not have in that first movie.
No, in the first movie, I kind of felt like they all lived together in this like hovel. This like very
Yeah.
dark hovel just filled with curtains. Although I don't think that was the case, because why would the four of them be living together with then their children? Anyway.
I know in the books it said something that there was like Maleficent had the equivalent of a castle, like still like a bad house, but like the tall one. And that's what it was implied to be. So yeah, he is like, oh my gosh, you gotta come back. And she's like, no, I gotta go my own way. I'm Vanessa Hudgens now. So she's like, I miss being evil. Like, you don't know the real me. Wicked. And he is upset, goes off, immediately gets kidnapped because Gil recognizes him from the poster, which is wild. But then, so they're like, oh no, Ben's kidnapped. I'm like, why did you let him wander off alone? And then Harry is like, oh, Mal has to meet Uma and come alone.
Yeah.
Mal does. She blames them for bringing him, but it's like, girl, you ran off. She agrees to an arm wrestle to settle it. And she almost wins with the whole shrimpy thing, but she loses. And
she loses because Uma like not tricks her, but like catches her off guard.
Yeah.
She says, I don't remember what she says, but she says something and that catches her off guard. And then
if Uma wins, she gets the fairy godmother's wand.
And if I win, you have to go get it for me. And that's what catches Mal off guard. Yeah.
Yeah. There's also a lot of talk of territory, like they're gangs. So that's a thing. So Mal's like, oh no, we have to do this. And so the boys go off to 3D print the wand because they have a 3D printer, because Chad is always constantly breaking into Carlos's room to 3D print action figures and like other dumb things. It's very entertaining that Chad somehow has a key to their room. So he's
so Chad just like first would just break in
and then 3D
had
prints
a key. Chad is so weird in this movie.
He's just a weird little goofy.
He's a weird little creep. I don't
Yeah,
know
he's a weird little creep. Yeah.
I thought he was there because he was gonna like simp for Jay or something, or Carlos. I mean, two things can be true. He can be a little creep and he could be simping.
So Chad maybe just needs to come out, or he'd be the worst gay you know. I don't know. But I hate hating on Chad because he looks like me and he's fun, but he is a weird little creep. That's the perfect description.
Weird little creep. Especially in this one.
Yeah.
It's like he doesn't have a purpose, because his first movie purpose was like taking advantage of Evie and then getting with Audrey. And then in the third movie, it's very much getting with Audrey. In the second movie, it's like Audrey's not there, so he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah, he's just there to be comic relief, I think.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. But yeah, so they go to 3D print and they're telling Chad that they need to 3D printer for the wand. And Lonnie overhears because they're so obvious. And Lonnie's like, you have to join or I'll tell fairy godmother. So she's along. And Chad is 3D printing himself a crown because he's like, so would someone else be next in line? And I'm like, how does the monarchy work here? I have so many questions. And as the franchise goes on, I'm convinced that no one writing this knows how monarchy works. That's what's going on with the boys. The girls, Evie reunites with Dizzy. She's so excited. She does not give a shit about Mal. She's like, Evie, I saved your old design book. And like some of the designs I've seen you make are totally based off things here. And she's like, what is Oridon like? What is ice cream like? She's just like,
Dizzy's adorable.
Yeah, she's like, at least one of us made it. And she's just so sweet. And she shouldn't be stuck here. So they make like stink balloons or whatever from the dye shop. Mal and Evie sing like Space Between, which Dove Cameron said that song is so gay.
It is. I was like, oh, it's their version of For Good, but much gayer.
Yeah, there's so many like head almost kisses. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get flashbacks to show us how
Yep.
different they looked in the first movie, and
Yeah.
it's a nice pop ballad, I guess. It is good.
Sure.
Yeah. And they love each other. And they're always gonna be, even though she like realizes, because Evie's like, no, I'll stay, and Mal's like, you love being an Ordon, like you were designed for it. So
So gay.
so gay. So they all get together to rescue Ben. Ben, where's our king? Our 16-year-old
Where's
monarch.
King? King.
King. I mean, don't go off, King, because Uma is like, you just left me here and all the other kids. And he's like, oh, yeah, I did mean to bring 4 other kids, but I got distracted with being king. But he does admit that sounds really dumb to say.
And so it's like 4 is such an arbitrary number. And it's like, I get that maybe you wanted to like have a pilot program. But after it worked, then you should have been like, all the kids can come now, not just do it in waves. Like,
Yeah. Or even
yeah.
like 20.
Yeah. Like go from 4, the next thing is 20, the next is, whatever.
You know
Yeah.
why? Is because they make them essentially wards of the state instead of finding people to take care, like families.
Yeah.
They just send them to a private boarding school
Yeah, it's really weird.
that only royals go to, question mark. But Mulan,
Not a royal, but
Dopey.
she was a royal advisor. So
But
she's like, and Jane
so
goes there. She's not royal.
do you have
It's
to
just like
be a
if you're
hero?
royal and royal adjacent.
Yeah.
I don't
They're
think it
like, you
has to
have
do
to
with being a hero.
do you have to connect yourself to one of, like, we have 20 chosen stories, which is very, French monarchy. The nobility system wasn't about the title the same way it was in England. I mean, obviously titles, but like it was more like how far back can you stretch the lineage, and was it to like the
Mm,
certain set of knights.
right.
So there's precedent, like this has any logic to it.
I was just gonna say, as if they thought about this.
He's like, oh, Uma, we can be part of the solution together. She's like, you want me to be part of your solution, Obama? He's giving
Yeah.
strong Obama vibes. Yeah. And she's like, no, I'm done. And then they show up for what I think is one of the worst songs of the franchise. The rap battle, it's going
This
down.
is when I was like, oh, they are Hamiltonifying this.
Yeah, and they're rapping, and the hook guy is so horny. He's
The
like, I'll
horniest.
humiliate him. I'm like, I thought you're just killing him.
Are we sure that he is the son of Hook and not the son of the Horned King?
Horny son of the Horn King. Yeah, he's so like everyone he's just like into in a weird murder sex way. And
Yes.
so they have a terrible rap battle, and then they give the fake wand, and then they're like, she's like,
And
how
then
does
they
it
did not
work?
have an exit strategy.
Well, also, magic isn't supposed to work on the idol. So would the wand even work?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And she waves it at the dog, and then the dog that stuck there talks. He's like, does this make me look fat? And they're like, oh my gosh, it works. And then I'm like, aren't there talking animals like Sebastian and Flounder and the mice and Cinderella? Like, what is okay? But she then tries to use the wand and immediately breaks it or she's like, oh, it doesn't work. It breaks it. And I'm like, in the
That could
time
have
it
been
took
the
her,
real wand, but it just didn't work because it was on the island.
yeah. I'm like, you just need to figure out how to get away faster. Though this battle did make me think I would love to do a Descendants style D&D campaign.
Oh,
Uh some kind of magic academia fairy tale type thing. But they do this long battle. We find out that Hook's, yeah, he just carries a hook. Ben goes like kuchu to hook it. Maybe they are a couple. And that Lonnie fights good. They all flee. They use their stick bombs, and Uma's like, "What's my name?" They know that song's a bop, but I'm like, okay, guys, calm it down. They flee. She loses her spell book. They get back, and the girl's like, "Time for girl talk." And Carlos is like, "Enough with the girl talk. This is for we need a meeting for all the members of the Alphabet Mafia. And they all sit down and talk about like their struggles fitting in or whatever, and Mal explains it, and they're like, well, if you don't want to be lady of the court, you don't have to be. Like, that's not what you want, and if he doesn't appreciate you for who you are, you should be with him.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. And Jay is like, go to Cotillion, and then if you don't like it, I'll just take you back tomorrow.
Yeah.
So Jay is again like the big brother protector one. I don't remember when this happens. It's just going to happen now. He reveals that Lonnie can be in the team as captain, because the captain and 8 men. And Chad's like, ugh. And then she does they all do 10 push-ups and practice ends.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is the shortest practice ever.
Jane is stressed planning, and Carlos is like, can we go together to Cotillion? And she's like,
oh yeah, like I can come to your dorm room. Yeah, a
I'll
bunch of
pick
us
you
are
up,
going.
yeah. And he's like, no, like together. And he does remove the phone. And this is actor chemistry, because it comes off as cute when in most situations that would be annoying and invasive.
Yeah.
But they're both so cute together that it works, because he's like, yeah, will you go? And she's like, oh my gosh. Yeah, like together, like oh my gosh, you're so nice.
Yeah. And then he's also like, and after Cotillion, would you consider being more than friends? And it's like, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Like, this feels like an authentic teen relationship. But the one with Ben and Mal, it feels like adult issues. Like, these are adult issues.
Marriage,
political, strife that they have to deal with. It's just, yeah.
So she's like, oh my gosh, you're so cute. I'm the luckiest girl in the world. Like, you're so cute. You're so nice. And he's like, I'm the luckiest girl in the world. No, I'm the luckiest guy. They're cute.
Yeah.
And it's Cotillion time. Chad can't make it because Audrey got a flat tire in Sherwood Forest, 6 hours away, and he's sipping for her. So he's going to go pick her up. So, because they didn't need one, because then they'd have an odd number of characters in the dance number at the end.
Can't have that.
So they all go to the Cotillion, which is on a yacht, very Ruby Gillman teenage Kraken coded.
I thought that too. And I also thought, I was like, oh, it's on a boat. Uma's gonna show up. That's why the Ruby Gillman thing is like, that's why it's on a boat. It's so Ruby Gillman and her, her murderous grandma
can do their
genocide grandma.
So they're at this dance. And it's revealed that Lumiere is there.
What?
And so this guy is Lumiere. The guy who's like the MC.
That makes sense, because he also has a French accent. Yeah.
Yeah, where's he gonna go on this board? The Beauty and the Beast corner. Out of control.
Thick.
Yeah, Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast. So like, we're getting everybody up in here. Which is funny, because those are movies that villains, they have top villains, but not like top sorceress villains, I guess.
Yeah.
So Mal shows up in her Beauty and the Beast ballroom colors dress.
It's awful.
It does not go with her purple hair at all.
No.
And Evie is plugging Dizzy's designs, because it's like a red carpet thing. She's like, Dizzy of the Aisle, and Dizzy's like, oh my god, because she like gave her
accessories and stuff.
Yeah, because she's like, if you have this, it's like a piece of me is there too. And I'm like, oh, this poor girl.
Dizzy's like the saddest character, because she's so sweet despite everything that's happened to her.
Like Cinderella, yeah.
And she continues to be very sweet. Whereas like the other kids, like the other VKs, they were like mischievous and like mean, but she is just sweet. So,
and Mal is like, oh, she'll be okay, because Evie's sad about leaving her. I'm like, will she?
Will she?
Will she make it to adulthood?
I don't know.
There's a man who burned a whole village running a dim sum restaurant down the street. Yeah.
Society. That is kind of diabolical, that not only did they resurrect him, but they gave him a dim sum restaurant or some sort of restaurant. I think this world, like, that's a villain that we could forget. we could leave him behind.
Yeah. Again, resurrecting villains, it's like they did a murder. Oh no, and that murder led to their death. I think we can take that as a win for society.
Yeah, like
Uh
let's let them stay dead.
yeah. So there are all these stained glass windows of the princesses on this yacht. Because Mal's becoming a lady of the court. Because you see all the princesses. You see Aurora and Philip. You see Cinderella and Charming. You see Snow White and her husband, Belle and Beast, Ariel and Eric, Tiana and Naveen, and Moana and Shang as well. Rapunzel and Flynn, Pocahontas and John Smith. Pocahontas exists in this universe.
Wait, they're at the cotillion or they're in the
Stained glass.
I'm sorry, Pocahontas and John Smith.
Yeah, so that means colonialism. Colonization happened. And
Well, how else do you think they got the Oradon Island? The indigenous population? They're probably the unnamed characters on the island
on this
Lost
island
now.
And so if Tiana's there, I think we should acknowledge New Orleans.
New Orleans. I guess we also have to acknowledge America. The United States of America and segregation. World War
One, where her dad died. And yeah, I put racism.
Segregation.
So yeah, again, Tiana faced segregation and then like let this slide. No way.
Yeah, she moved to this European like country run by Americans. No, thank you. I don't think she would do that. Because also, what about her restaurant?
What is she? Okay, so yeah, then Ben shows up with Uma. He's like, "This is my new love, Uma."
And I paused right there, and I said, "Have they not seen Little Mermaid? How are they buying this? How does Mal not immediately clock and go, that bitch just took my man Little Mermaid style?"
She literally took a page out of her spell book because she did it from the spell book, but Mal did it to Audrey.
Oh, that's true. So
this is the same way Mal and Ben got together. So everyone's shocked, but it's also like, there's history. He does this. He likes a nasty girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's upset, understandably, and Belle is like, "Oh my gosh, we did not know. Like, I am so sorry for this mess." But this is, as JoJo Siwa herself would say, karma's a bitch. Everyone's shocked. Also, Jane and Carlos are a date, and Fairy Godmother's like, "Oh my gosh, bippity boppity, that's so cute." But she doesn't believe her daughter as a date at first. And I'm like, "Girl, she's beautiful." So they're dancing, or he's dancing to kiss the girl with her, and he's like, "Yeah, on the island, something just like connected. So sorry, Mal, get wrecked." And everyone's like, "Yikes!" And Jane is like, "Oh, show his present, show the stained glass window to Lumiere." And Ben is like yelling at people, like, "Not now, Dad!" And then they open
he goes beast mode.
They open the stained glass. He says at one point, "Oh no, beast on her." I'm like, "Oh my gosh,
gross.
Get over your parents." So they throw open the stained glass window, and it's her, very purple and green, evil coated green eyes. So it shows that he appreciates her for who she is. Which actually, this is a romantic gesture. I was like, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So many times in these movies, it's like, look at this romantic gesture. And I'm like, this works for this particular scenario.
Yeah, I kind of wish they wouldn't have shown us the stained glass window before, and also like the fact that he was picking out the color green for her eyes.
Yeah.
I feel like it should have been like more subtle to the audience, so that it could have been a surprise for us. Because also that would have made the payoff of her being like, "No, he's under a spell," would have made that bigger for us too. Because we could have been like, "Oh, well, this man has a history of dumping girls in public."
So she kisses him, true love's kiss, breaks the spell. They were talking about it earlier, Evie and Malice are talking about something, and I'm like, what are they talking about? But true love
works every time.
So she kisses him, his spell is broken. Disney Channel kiss, wow, steamy. Well, we had Hook hornying everywhere, so I'm like, you can at least let these people kiss that are engaged to be engaged. And then Uma runs off. She's like, yeets herself off the boat, goes all Ursula, splashes water. Is she trying to kill them or just make them wet?
I think she's trying to get the whole boat wet.
And
so that they can have the splashy dance scene. Literally, the end.
yeah, Mal turns into a dragon. Ben roars and then dives into the water and is like, "We can get along
Stop
and
the violence!
stop the violence." And then Uma's just like, you know what? Nah, I'm
Fuck
done.
you
And she
guys.
leaves. Fuck you guys. Uh,
Yeah, because she's
and
free now from the island.
yeah, yeah. And Mal turns back. But she doesn't take him out of the water. He has to climb all the way up. And he's like, you know what? There needs to be changes. And Evie's like, yeah, there are all these people on the island. Like Dizzy, she would love to be here. And he's like, yeah, like send me a list of names. So
Hmm.
Evie is the only one worried about the other people on the island.
Yeah, no one else in this little group
Yeah.
cares. They
Yeah,
just kind of forgot.
Yeah. And they do the big finale, starts with you and me dance, which the song is whatever, but it is one of my top Descendants songs for the dance aspect. Like that is a really fun closing dance number.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. By the time I get to like the final dancing number,
You're like,
I'm looking at that fast forward, being like, oh, there are people talking. Okay, I gotta catch this because I
yeah.
can't. I'm I I hit my maximum with those movies way before the ending dance number, but I know I'm like I can't just skip all the way through it. Like I need to check for people talking.
Yeah, the
Who
ending
knows
of
what
this
lore they're gonna drop in those conversations?
the ending is a little too slow, I'm gonna say. It's like
It is slow.
all the events that happen are like, yes, these are good events for the ending, but there's so many minutes of Mal being upset and they're like he's such a dick, and I'm like, speed this up.
Yeah.
You know how the ending of The Little Mermaid has so many plot points, but it's so fast.
Fast. Yep.
Yeah. Which is wild because these movies are all longer than like your average Disney princess movie.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So that's Descendants 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. Oh yeah. I Lumiere and Fairy Godmother. I'm like, is Lumiere Jane's dad? I don't know.
Mm.
And Lonnie XJ, they're dancing in this. So are they a couple? I don't know.
No. Because the
No,
next
because
movie,
we're
she's
not gonna
not
see
there.
Lonnie again. Goodbye. You're near, far, wherever you are.
Love
Uh,
this.
okay, so aesthetics, right? Mal misses evil vibes. She misses
Yeah.
looking evil. She's not necessarily an evil person, but that line,
Yeah.
as they talk about like the oppression of the Isle, that line between these people are abusive, violent, dangerous, scary, or these people are just like slightly alternative.
Yeah. They shop at Hot Topic. The other thing is that she, and perhaps the movie is doing this to its service, she's misinterpreting her brain chemistry being messed up and having anxiety about this very adult situation that she's in as a
Yeah.
child with no parent. She's misinterpreting that as like, oh, I am rotten to the core, I am awful. It's like, no, like you just like you need therapy and like to relax, a spa day, something.
In some ways, there's some parts of the fourth movie that actually I'm like, as much of a kind of a mess as that movie is, where I'm like, you're actually engaging with the concepts of good and evil in a more nuanced way than the first three ever did. So there's
Yeah.
like a couple scenes where I'm like, this is what I think the movies were trying to say, but they never quite got to it. I don't know. Um, Descendants 3. It's
Mm.
good to be bad. That has strong Cardi B vibes. They're singing "It's Good to Be Bad" because they run like programs. Like Carlos owns like a halfway house or like a foster
Or like an
house.
orphanage. Um, Jay's Way. He and Evie have a street. Each have streets. What does Mal have?
Nothing, because she does not give a shit about these kids.
I guess.
Even though she's the most privileged of all the four of them. So they're running their new thing where they announce who they're doing, the Hunger Games style lottery.
Lottery. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's dystopian. And they're treating it, everyone, even the kids who don't get picked, are treating it yeah. It's like as if like the Hunger Games, the Reaping or whatever it's called. I think it's called the Reaping, something like that. As if like everyone was celebrating.
We get Smee and his twins who contribute nothing.
Oh, also, there is still no parameters for how these children get picked.
No.
We know why Dizzy gets picked, but
yeah, Dizzy gets picked, and also we get Celia, daughter of Dr. Facilier.
He runs an
arcade. He's introduced later, but yeah, we'll just put him on now. He runs an arcade.
Yeah, because he's actually present.
And seems to be like a good dad.
Yeah.
Those kids are picked, but that's not when they take them. They're like, okay, we'll be back. So they come back. Mal is watching for Uma. She's paranoid that the girl she used to bully will ruin Auradon. And then
she's worried about Auradon. I think she's worried about Uma coming back to beat her ass.
Yeah. So because Mal has firepower, but Uma's got water. She's got the seashell necklace. They get engaged. I don't know. Ben does it very smoothly.
It's the celebration of the new kids coming. And also he's like, oh yeah, and I'm 16 or 17, ambiguous, and I'm going to propose to... But here's the thing. I thought the cotillion was engagement to be engaged to be engaged.
So there should be 2 more steps.
Yeah, there should be at least 2 more movies before this happens. And they're still underage.
So I thought they were like 18, because this is supposed to be right after they graduated. But why are the new kids coming now?
Wait,
because Audrey's in summer school. According to the books, yes. Well,
okay, but the books are not canonical, you said.
Well, they're semi-canonical. Because, okay, so in
the movie, the context is not...
They don't tell us that.
No. So I think there's still... I think we can assume that they're maybe 18, but that still doesn't excuse it.
Yeah, they're maybe 18. So Evie has a house, right? So it's supposed to be that they graduated, but Carlos and Jane are juniors, or like they're going to be seniors. And Audrey's in summer school because she went on that spa retreat. Yeah, he does the "you got me down on my knees." He's like doing a reprise, and he gets on his knee, which is smooth. I will give him that. They're engaged. Audrey is like, no, and grabs her stomach. Oh my God, was that retreat to get some feminine care? That maybe Auradon doesn't allow in the capital based on everything else we know about Auradon.
Oh, wow.
Dark headcanon.
This really went dark.
But she's hanging out with Chad and her grandma because her parents cannot be bothered to be involved in this movie. And they're busy running Disneyland. Queen Leah is like, your mother could keep a prince in her sleep. You know, our family status, years of planning, gone. So I'm like, okay, what is the monarchy in this world?
The political agenda of like, we were setting you up to be the new queen.
She was groomed in her own way.
Yes.
Her and Mal actually do have a lot in common. There's so much that's interesting with Audrey. They go to get the new people. Everyone else is happy. Belle planned an engagement party. Evie knew that this was happening. Mal says, "I love you, Belle." So that's what she calls them, Belle and Beast. They go to the island, pick up the new kids. It's Lady Tremaine is supposed to be like caring, and I'm like, this woman's famously abusive. What is happening?
Yeah.
They go, well, she kind of liked her own daughter, but she still wasn't great to them.
Yeah.
They arrive. As they leave, Hades reaches a hand out, and lightning blasts
the barrier. Stops the barrier from closing up again.
He's got this thing called an ember that he uses to send semi-lethal blows at these teenagers. Here, there's an open spot. I know he's the
only mention of Hercules, people.
Yeah, Hercules exists.
So Greece is in this world, or at least
yes,
Olympus is.
Yeah, where is it? The pantheon of gods.
Of course, it's real.
he says he's a god. You can't keep me here. I'm a
Yep.
god. And I'm like, okay, there's so many thoughts. Because the Catholic Church is also real. Quasimodo's stained glass window.
Yeah.
So he then Mal turns into a dragon to fight him, and he's lethally blasting this dragon. He's draining her magic with the ember, but she sends him spiraling back. Audrey is like, she can't even protect us. And I'm like, Audrey, what would you do? What powers
Yeah.
do you have?
Ma'am, this is a Wendy's.
Man, this is a Wendy's. Also, there's this implication that it's the queen's job to protect, which I guess, like, politically, yes, but like, what would Belle do to fight laser
Literally
blasts?
nothing. I don't. Oh, is it implied that the queen protects, or is it implied that she is the protector because she can turn into a dragon? Because that's what I read it as.
But because Audrey's like, you'd rather have a villain as queen than me, and she's just like yelling at random people, and I'm like,
yeah,
this girl needs therapy.
Also, it feels weird that this is happening in the third movie and not the second movie,
because we just had, it's been 2 movies. It's been a different presidential administration.
Yeah, it's just like, it's kind of weird. Like, obviously, like, I don't know, the actor just wasn't available or whatever. Yeah, but like,
she was doing the X-Files. She was in the Charmed reboot.
That's where I know her from. Okay.
Yeah, she was in a police show.
So she was working, which great. But it does like, because ideally they would have apologized to her, if not at the end of the first movie, sometime in the second movie, because she would have retaliated or something. But it happens in the third movie where she's just like so focused on the fact that she didn't get what she wanted or what she thinks she deserves.
Yeah. What were her lesbian aunts telling her on that spa retreat? Because I feel like they'd be like, Meriwether was even like, I don't think Aurora needs to marry a prince. So I feel like they'd be like, girl, you do you, take up a hobby.
Yeah.
You know.
Focus on you. Go to Yale.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like if Mal, maybe you need to learn magic from Mal and you can do magic like we do, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't see them doing well in a no magic society, famously, right?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
But Audrey is sad. And she sings the number 68 chart-topping song, Queen of Mean.
Queen of Mean.
Queen of Mean
was a bop.
That is a bop. It is such a good song. Again, Halloween playlist, sad depressed playlist, villain era playlist. It's a good song. And so let me talk about what happens, and then let me talk about how this is kind of a miss. So I love her outfit here too. So she is upset. She sings the song. She's like, I'm going to steal the crown, because she's just hyper fixated on being queen. She steals the crown, and then she gets in the museum so easy. The scepter of Maleficent calls her name like it did to Aurora in Sleeping Beauty. She grabs it. She goes a dark magenta evil transformation, puts on the crown. We also see the Fates scissors.
Yes.
The mirror.
A Hercules reference.
The mirror from Beauty and the Beast. We see the apples from Snow White. And I'm like, she only made 1 poison apple, so is this just a basket of apples you preserved? And we see the Black Cauldron.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So that means in this universe that has Cotillion, there was an undead army that tried to take over. They had to deal with that. You know, I guess because we don't see other characters from Hercules, you could infer that like the events of things like Black Cauldron and Hercules were farther away. Oh, but no, then the 4th movie fucks with that. The 4th movie really does fuck up this whole timeline.
So really quick, Descendants 3, let me look up a photo real quick, because so what's interesting about Audrey when she comes back is she's blonde, but she has like blue and pink in her hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting because she does her transformation, her hair is pink and blue, like very saturated.
Yeah.
Now, this could just be the dye having worn off, although I'm pretty sure it's just a wig, or she's already been transforming. Her hair is a signal of her free transformation
Doing
without
in the anger.
the evil scepter. Yes.
Yeah. So because she is like, this is what I deserve. And that's why this song is great in many ways, because it's somewhat sympathetic, but you're also like, what do you deserve to be queen? Because you follow the, like,
It's a song that has a lot of meaning and a lot of weight to it.
yeah. And some
So
great, great rhymes. But here's the thing. I also want to say this storyline would have been so good if Audrey was nice. Because she says, being nice was my pastime. Like, girl, you were always mean.
yeah, from the second we met her, she was mean. If
So
she
if
had
she
genuinely
was,
been nice to Mal, this would have been way more sympathetic.
because making her mean is a way to make Mal's actions seem less evil. But if she was nice and like maybe naive and sheltered or a little dumb, so maybe she's not the perfect girl for Ben, but like but then Mal ruins her life, humiliates her, and devastates her, and to the point where she leaves school, and then she comes back
She
and
has a
she's,
breakdown, a mental breakdown,
yeah,
and it's well deserved.
and she's pissed because it's like, I've been nice and kind, and then this girl
It's
bullied
like
me and is now queen.
it's like if like Gretchen Wieners. If she was like, I've
Yeah.
just been so nice. And it's like, have you?
Yeah. So it's like, I get why everything happened the way it did, but the song is like, would be so much even better if she had been nice, and it would have been a better story about good and evil and the consequences and how
Yeah.
heroes are made. Yeah. So she's evil now. And yeah, there aren't as many side
Or
plots
is
in
it
this
just a
one
dream? Is she like in a trance?
because of the scepter, which they
Mhm.
just keep in a museum.
This evil magical weapon.
Belle and Beast and Fairy Godmother and Ben and Mal are like, the crown is missing, the scepter is missing, it must be Uma. And this is so stressful. And Belle's like, what should we do, Mal? And I'm like, she's not even
What
in
are
this
you
life anymore.
asking a 17-year-old? That's crazy. But then what she says is crazier.
She's like, we need to keep the barrier. We need to build that wall, keep the
Yep.
undesirables on that island. Doesn't matter that
Yep.
I came from there.
And what's interesting
She's
is,
such a Republican.
but
Mal
also
is
I think they're all Republicans. I think they were all thinking it, but they wanted the girl who came from the aisle to say it.
to say it. So they're like,
Yeah.
great, thanks for saying that. But
Yeah, Belle's
Ben,
like, phew, I didn't want to have to say that.
our
But then Ben,
centrist liberal Ben is like, no, but I wanted these kids to have a better life. And she's like, your dream was so beautiful.
what? What are you saying? Your dream. What about the kids? Like,
Yeah.
she should be focused on being like, I know that these kids need a better life, but like, we need to find a different way. She's like, your dream was so beautiful. I'm so sorry that we have to like not make your dream come true. Ma'am, that's not what this is about. Okay.
So they're closing up the aisle, and she's telling Evie about it. And Evie's like, well, of course you said that was a terrible idea. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
And
totally.
Evie's like, I'm so glad there's someone like you to look out for the VKs.
It's like,
So she's
girl, that was
lying
your
to her.
idea.
Yeah, Mel sucks.
She really does.
And they're prepping for Jane's birthday. Uh, Dizzy and Celia love eating real food that's not
Doesn't have
contaminated
dirt or
or
bugs in it.
flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. As this is happening, Audrey shows up to turn Mal into an old hag. And Mal's like, this isn't you. This is the scepter. And Audrey's like, maybe I want to be dangerous.
Maybe I want to be bad now.
Yeah, you're ugly. And leaves. And they're like, oh, the only thing that can stop the scepter is Hades' Ember?
Which, because I thought they were going to say it would be Fairy Godmother's wand, because we understand
Built that
that
up
as
the whole
a
time.
big magical object or weapon, tool. But they say Hades' Ember so that they can get Hades involved and blah, 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 blah. But it is also interesting because we come to find that Hades is Mal's dad.
And only
And
Evie knew.
and the scepter is her mom's. So something of her mom's that can only be defeated by something of her dad's. Fascinating.
Yeah. So Mal is part demigoddess, part fae.
Oh my
She
god.
really
She could go to Camp Half-Blood.
Camp Half-Blood. She is so OC. She's so Ebony Darkness Adventure Raven way.
Yeah,
I'm a
she's
vampire. I also go to Hogwarts, Yeah. So they're like, we have to go to Hades. Dizzy, watch the useless twins.
also
We're all
Dizzy,
going.
a character that was set up to be like someone we could root for and be attached to. She gets designated as the babysitter, and we have what's her name, Celia.
Celia.
We have Celia come along, which is fine, but it's also like we built Dizzy up already, so it's
Yeah.
like why
This
can't
is Exo Kitty you're talking about.
I don't understand why they make these choices.
The sister from To All the Boys I've Loved Before. So she's left behind. They go, all the main kids, and then you're on the aisle, so she transforms back from being ugly or old, whatever. And I'm like, what about when you brought your Maleficent as a lizard? But then it seems to imply Maleficent is on the aisle later. And I'm like, where's Maleficent? But then she is a lizard in the wedding special. Okay. But
I don't know.
So they go there, the Hook and Harry Hook or whatever, and Gil steal the bikes. So then Celia and Mal they talk to Facilier, and he's all like a good dad. And we hear that Audrey's putting people to sleep, and they say Sleeping Beauty's daughter, but that's obviously a lie. What villain is it? Celia and Mal go through a series of hijinks, or like, we're going through this cart and we're past the Cerberus record player to get to
Celia's dad give her the key to Hades' lair?
She runs errands for Hades.
Yeah.
So we see Hades, and he's played by Cheyenne Jackson, also of Glee.
Also Glee.
And he stops her, and he's like, "That's mine." And they sing "Do What You Gotta Do," where we reveal that he's her dad. It's hard to be married to her mom, so he abandoned her. It's not easy to neglect. My attention would have made you softer. So he's just like, yeah, I was a deadbeat dad, and that's made you better. Fuck Hades.
Yeah.
He deserves no redemption. He deserves to be in this prison. He shows no remorse for banning his daughter. He also him and Maleficent just didn't fuck. They were Christian married, I guess.
Right. Were they? Or
Greco-Roman religion married.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's tough because she's a Protestant and he's from Greek. He's a Greek god.
Yeah. So the song is okay, I guess. They've got to give Cheyenne Jackson a song, but it's also just like, yeah, I abandoned you and that made you stronger. Okay, Kelly.
I honestly feel like that is a thing, like a theme that comes up in those kinds of like relationships, like in movies and TV. It's like,
yeah,
well, look at what you become. Like, I guess I could have just ruined it if I was there,
Fuck
it's
you.
like a sad excuse. Yeah.
And this is the classic thing where it's like, mom was around, but yes, she was abusive, but also she did raise her. She did stick around. Hades gets this whole redemption arc. He did not stick around. He did not give a shit about her till she was almost queen, and even then he tried to kill her. And this is where Descendants 3 falls heaviest into good and evil art aesthetic, because now we're fully in Trump's America. We cannot have this barrier. But like, Hades is like, he deserves to be free. But he still tried to take over Olympus and kill Hercules as a baby, I guess. And he still abandoned his daughter. That's not an aesthetic thing. That's an objectively shitty thing to do.
Also related to Hercules. Yes. Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah. So because it's like, Audrey's from good and she became evil, but it's just like, it's a shallow movie.
Yeah.
They get away. So he's like, you can have the Ember. It only sort of worked for you because you only sort of have my DNA. They definitely blued up her hair for this one.
Yes.
And they get to, what is even this plot? Okay, they escape. Harry and Uma and Gil rotate after them, and they're out. They like flip through the barrier. Like this barrier is so easy to get through. How does no one else done it?
Yeah.
Uh the lack of guards in this society. Uh
Right.
Also the
But I
Ember
guess
should
you wouldn't be able to have, well, I guess maybe you could. You wouldn't be able to have guards on the other side,
Mhm.
but you would be able to on like the Ordon side, I guess.
Uma's there because the Ember almost falls and gets wet, but she grabs in her tentacle, which I'm like, I'm sure the tentacle's sopping wet.
Sopping wet, yeah. Because yeah, it can't get wet, otherwise it doesn't work. But it's okay, you can just recharge it like regular crystals.
And Uma's
If
been
you know, you
discovering
know, witch girlies.
Wish girlies. Uma's been discovering Moana's island and learning about coconuts. Uh
She defeated the Kakamora.
yeah. And so she's like, yeah, I'm trying to find a way out of this island. But she takes the Ember and Mal's like, we need that. And Uma's like, I'll give it to you if you agree to let all the VKs that want to come to Oridon. Reasonable. And Mal's like, okay. And Evie's like, yeah, she's good on her word. And I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
sorry, your girlfriend is not good on her word. Uh, she's also like, why does everyone hate each other? We should all get along. Gum. And they're all like, and it's like, Evie's doing her best. Okay, so it's like this is like a series of, this one really does play like a D&D campaign, not necessarily in a fun way, but where it's just like they just do a series of tasks.
Yes.
They go to Oridon. Everyone's asleep. Gil talks about how he loves fresh fruit because they don't have it on the island. Jay is like, I love your wide-eyed naivete. Um,
Yeah, they do the
uh,
icebreaker.
yeah, yeah. Evie wants them to do an icebreaker. No one else wants to do it. Evie's so mean. They they go to the castle where there's like scratch marks in a painting because Audrey showed up. She's like, "Hey Ben, do you like me now?" He's like, "Who put you under a spell?" I'll. And she's like, "You'll what? Marry them?" And I'm like, "You did get him." Because earlier
Good for you.
also Mal is like, or she's like, "Oh, congrats, Mal. You want him fair and square." Oh wait, you spelled him. Touching story for the grandkids. So Audrey is reading them all to Phil.
Yeah, she's the realest one out here.
And because she's like, he's like, oh, I like the old Audrey. She's like, no, you like an evil girl. You did not like the old Audrey. You dubbed her
Hmm.
publicly. Uh, so she's like, marry me. He's like, no. And she's like, okay, sleeping's too good for you. Hits him with magic. She also starts
And
turning
he's
people to,
gone. We don't know what happened to him yet.
yeah. She also turns people to stone, like the fairy godmother. Oh,
Uh-huh.
she crashed Jane's birthday. Uh,
Yeah.
she was uninvited. She's like, you all forgot. And which is true. She was the queen bee. And then the moment she was no longer aligned to be queen, they all dumped her ass. So these people are fake. She sings happy birthday, puts them to sleep. Chad joins her because he's like, can you want a boyfriend or sidekick for smoothie runs? She's like, okay.
You could be
Uh,
useful. She pets him like a dog.
yeah, there's some stuff going on there. Chad is also playing with a super soaker earlier and talking to Jane like, oh, did Carlos forget your birthday? And she's like, maybe it's a cultural thing. Uh,
Jane's so understanding.
yeah. So she's swims in the lake to avoid getting turned to stone by the magic, which is so much smarter than like any other character in this movie.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, so people are being turned to stone, and as they show up to Oridon or whatever the school, they see a stone band girl, and Evie is like, they turned Hannah to stone.
That's
That's you.
me.
It's me.
I'm an
Uh,
I'm a named character, but I have no lines. But I'm in stone now.
so they're
That's
just
so
like,
funny.
people are always like, who's
I
Hannah?
must have walked away because like I wasn't watching, I was like still listening, and I heard like the name Hannah. I was like, they say my name, and then I
What's
couldn't
my
rewind.
name? Yeah.
Hannah. That's
So Hannah Stone, and they're in the castle looking for the beast, or Ben, who's a beast, and then she is in the cottage, fairy godmother's cottage, and from Flora Fawn and Merryweather, and she activates the suits of armor, so they attack because Uma wanted them to split up. Mal's like no, and then the armor attacks, and they
And then
have
they
to
have a
learn
dance off.
they have to learn to fight together, and they use magic to make the armor dance, so they dance off and defeat the armor, which
So dumb. I'm sorry. It's
yeah,
dumb
it's
because
dumb.
in the fourth movie, there's an actual action scene, and I'm like, wow, look at that. No singing and dancing, just like a straight up action scene. I appreciated it.
Because I think what's interesting is that the song does actually move the story forward, right? They're using
Sure.
this fight for the teams to be like, we can be like, we're not necessarily on the same side, we can be aligned or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
we can work together. But I guess they just didn't want to show them defeating animated suits of armor.
I don't know.
But they
It's
do
weird.
this dance off where they're in some tight leather, and I'm like, I didn't need to see this in a Disney Channel movie. And
Yeah,
so
the leather aesthetic, it's a bit much.
at the same time, I tried one of those outfits, but one time I wore leather pants for Halloween, and my legs were so sweaty.
Yeah. Oof. No. Mm-mm.
I did look up to see if I could buy Chad's jacket from the first movie because I was like, I look good in that. This is the closest I could get. Carlos does have some good fits too. Where are we? Okay. They escape. And okay, let's see how quickly I can wrap all this up. They split up. The girls find out that Audrey was depressed because Mal ruined her life. She went to Fairy Godmother's cottage where
Yeah,
Aurora.
they read her diary,
Yeah.
which is like, that's an invasion of privacy, but I
Which
get it. You need
she
the intel.
is. Yeah. And they're like, oh, she's hiding where Aurora hid from your mom. And she's like, I see the irony. The boys find Beast Ben. Carlos helps them with a thorn. Meanwhile, Jay and Gil are talking about jungles and icebergs and how they like want to see the world together. And Hook calls Tourney a wee boys game in the horniest way. And I'm like, I don't like that coming from your mouth. Dudes, they're talking. Jane, again, smartest person in this franchise, squirts Ben. She went from a dummy in the
With
first one to the
yeah,
lake
really.
water in this
With the
in
lake
the
water,
super
you need to
soaker.
be very specific. You can't just say she squirts somebody.
I like jumped to a new topic without finishing my sentence. Yeah, with the lake water and the super soaker that Chad was playing with earlier, love plan did pay off. And now he just has a beard and weird fangs.
For like a little bit, and then it wears off eventually. But I kind of was hoping that he would get stuck with that, so that he could always be reminded of the fact that maybe he doesn't treat people as nicely as he should.
No, yeah. At the house, Dizzy's asleep and having a bad dream. Okay. They needed to give Sophia Carson a number. So Evie sings One Kiss about her and Doug haven't said the L word yet. Meanwhile, Ben and Mal are like rushing to the altar and they haven't even said the L word yet. Doug says something about like their movie nights. And there's something earlier about she doesn't need a prince, she can have her own castle. And I will say Evie, girl bossed, way better than Camila Cabello, Cinderella.
Absolutely.
I believed this girl likes fashion and makeovers and doing this
It
and
actually
learned how to
does fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she sings a song that's fine, I guess, kisses Doug after she dances with his sleeping body. And he wakes up and they love each other, I guess.
He like
Okay.
fakes her out though at first.
Yeah. He also has long hair, but
Not about it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. They get attacked by like floorboards, and Uma and Mal team up to use their magic to stop it. Also, why does Evie only Uma, I guess it's because Ursula and Maleficent, I guess, are more inherently magic than the evil queen, but Evie gets like no magic. Since the glass
Well, because the
mirror
evil
thing.
queen,
She used potions and stuff. She wasn't as like innate. But Jay has no magic either.
Yeah, he doesn't. Well, I guess Jafar. He was a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? That's weird.
So they go off to, I don't even know. Okay, so uh they all reunite. Carlos gives Jane a necklace that says Jarlos that he 3D printed.
This was so sweet. This was where I realized I'm like, okay, this is like an authentic relationship. This I can kind of be like, oh, that's so cute. But the other relationships, I mean, I guess kind of Doug and Evie, but there's not a lot for them.
Yeah,
It's very just in passing. Um, but yeah, like Mal and Ben, it's like it's way too mature.
yeah.
It doesn't feel real.
And yeah, so Carlos and she's just like, oh, this is so cute. I know what it means. I love it. He's like, I could change it and change it to
Kane.
Kane. And she's like, no.
No,
But so
Jarlos is fine.
they're happy. But they have too many characters, so they send Doug, Gil, and Jane to find Fairy Godmother. I don't know to do what, but they make fun of Doug being weak. And maybe because he's wearing a lot of layers, but he doesn't seem particularly scrawny at this point. Uh, so they go off, and then the core kid, everyone else goes to the cottage. We find Chad, who's been locked in a closet, traumatized, asking for his mother. Audrey was throwing things at him. He runs off. They're like, ha ha ha. And Uma's like, I'm so glad you're gonna free all the VKs. And then Mal's like, you know what? I need to be honest. I was gonna lock everybody in. And Evie's like, what the fuck? You said that didn't allow that. And was like, so you're just gonna let us save you and then send us back to prison? And Ben's like, yeah. And Mal's like, I'm sorry, I want to protect our life. And Evie's like, what about everyone else? And like Carlos and Jay are also like, that's fucked up. So Uma and Harry leave. Celia drops the ember in a like a bird pond, and it's like, get wrecked.
Yeah.
And fair. And then Audrey turns everyone else to stone. And then Mal sings My Once Upon a Time, which
Boo.
I have been
Sorry.
listening to that song a lot since I watched the movie. I think I like it as a Broadway style ballad, but I will give the caveat that in the movie, weirdly placed, the visuals are weird because they're just flashbacks to other things, just
Yep.
like If Only. And also, it's an arc for Mel's character through the whole franchise, but it doesn't fit her arc in the movie because
No.
she says something about lying because she feels unworthy, which I guess, like imposter syndrome, sure, and like she's trying to fit into the establishment, but they don't really explore or resolve that. So she just sings, and then Uma and Hook are like, we don't care. And then
It
Celia's
also feels
capture.
way too hopeful. Like it sounds too hopeful for this like lowest low moment for her. Like her
Yeah.
friends are locked in stone and they hate her. Uma and Horny Hook and Gil.
Celia, whatever. Yeah, they're
So yeah, like
gone.
all they left. So like she doesn't have any allies. Like this is her low right now, and she still needs to save the day. And it's like the song is like weirdly hopeful. Like the actual music of it sounds, it just doesn't
It's like
fit.
she makes it's like acting like she's making a choice to do something, but we don't know what that choice is because nothing happens. Yeah, she sings that. There's also it's cut, but there's a lyric in the soundtrack version where she says, "It's not your mother's dark desire, and it's not your father's hair on fire." Hades' hair is such a cool animation and has been plaguing the Disney live action remake community ever since. Which is why maybe we don't need to make all these. Or at least do stylistically different choices. So Audrey has captured Celia and is fighting, and she's like, come get your little friend. So Mal turns into a dragon, can't ignite the ember, but then Uma and Hook, I guess, see that she's helping Celia and are like, we believe in you, Mal, friendship.
It's like no, I don't believe that. That's like
and it
it's too easy for her.
and it ignites the ember. So as they have this like blast of magic off, she blasts Audrey and like blasts the darkness out of her. She's back to her pre-Queen of Mean state, but she dealt a killing blow because Audrey's gonna die. All the other villain kids like Celia, Uma, whatever, they go back to the island because they're like, we want to be with our people. As they're still gonna close the barrier, but they're
Mm-hmm.
like, we need Hades to use the ember. Hades is my dad. Ben's like, what? They get Hades. Grandma is there. Still, Philip and Aurora could not be cast.
They could not be bothered to come to the bedside of their dying daughter.
Wow, why did drag my favorite Disney characters this franchise?
Well, it's true, and sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah. Penny, why are you doing this to me, Mr. Ortega? So
Mr. Ortega.
he resurrects her and is like, oh, why doesn't she go to the aisle? It's because she's one of you and I'm one of me, which would be a point, but Hades, again, it's like Hades isn't a good guy either.
Right.
So it's like this whole like morality is aesthetic thing the movie's going for. Like the heroes are the same as the villains. That's not really true because these villains, as I said 5 hours ago, whenever we started, have well-documented lists of crimes that include mass murder, sexual harassment, deceiving of minors, dark magic,
trying to poison people, kidnapping.
Yeah, it's like you should not be allowed to roam free after doing those things because mainly for the safety of other people. I don't really believe in like punishment, but it's more about like keeping people safe. You know, because Hades obviously, I don't think he learned anything. He's still gonna try and take over the world, but Hades resurrects her, leaves. And Mal's like, oh my god, thanks, Dad. He's like, thanks for a glimpse of the sun. I'm like, this man, he owed that to you because he abandoned you. Like, you don't know. You don't owe him hugs. Don't touch him. Only touch him after you've touched a pimple. Like,
and she like gives him a kiss on the cheek. And it's like
gross.
Why? Don't do this.
The ending of this movie. Okay, so then they're having an engagement party. Mal is like,
when Audra wakes up, she's like, please tell me it was a dream. And so it's like, okay, were you tranced? Or was this like you're just
your
like
villain era?
Yeah, and you're
was
just
this
like,
your
God, tell me I didn't actually do that.
Was this your school pew pew era? It's kind of the energy, to be honest.
Oh, I didn't even put that together. It very much is very much like that.
Because she's like, you're all I wanted. She's like, I want to hurt you. I wanted to hurt everyone. And so it's like there's that, and then there was this all about dreams. So I'm like, how much did the scepter control her brain? And they're like, we've owed you an apology for a long time. And like, that's true, but also she's she did some stuff. She turned people to stone. There's a scene of Jane telling her mom about her birthday and Carlos. But I guess Audrey's fine now because she's at the party. Everyone's wearing fascinator hats. And Mal is like, my dad is Hades. Also, you don't know where villains come from or heroes come from. Hades saved Audrey. The villains saved Auradon, the villain kids. So we need to bring down the barrier. And Beast is like, you can't do that. And Ben's like, it's not up to you anymore. It's like, well, yeah, true. You did give the government to a teenager. They get to make their decisions. So this is what they're trying to stop in the first movie. This is the bad thing. And this is how it ends. And I get you can't end with this barrier and all these kids trapped. But also, these villains should not just roam free.
No, they should have taken I can't say they should have taken the kids, but like they should have, I don't know,
reevaluated. They should, or at least done what Uma's plan all along was the best plan. Just let all the villain kids that want to, they can apply and they can leave.
Yep.
And then so okay. They lower the barrier, they sing Break This Down. It's a song, it's the end of the movie. They dance on a bridge. All the royals do like a dramatic curtsy to the villain kids. Again, now the villain island went from like all these evil scheming people to just like happy
and Audrey
goth punk
hooking up with Horny Hook.
Audrey's gonna hook up with Horny Hook.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to hook up with Mal, Evie, Uma, everybody, and then he's like, Jane. I guess Audrey. He points out Jane. Earlier he's like, oh, that little duckling.
Yeah. I didn't like the duckling thing. He was like, you're
Carlos
ravishing.
Is like, she's taken.
Ravishing and taken.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, on to the next one.
So he's going to hook up with Audrey. Jane is nervous to meet Carlos's abusive mom, as she should be. And so is Dude the dog.
As he should be as well.
As he should be. Jay's going to travel the world with Gil. The closest we're going to get to a queer romance in this.
Yeah. And that's pretty close.
It's pretty close. Mal and Ben, she sees Hades, she hugs Hades. Oh my god, he's free. Also, Lady Tremaine and Dr. Facilier are free. I'm not as scared about that, but okay. Dr. Facilier did try and sell all the souls of New Orleans, if I recall. So yikes.
Yeah.
To probably Hades, I guess, if this is all one universe. But Hades is there and he's like, wow. And he's like giving Ben the overprotective dad thing. And I'm like, you did not protect her when you lived on an island of murderers and sexual
Yeah.
harassers.
It's like, it's
I
hokey.
It's hokey and I hate Hades. It's like
Yeah.
he fucks with this message, so and just like that he gets this redemption. And what made the franchise stronger at the beginning was the acknowledgement that the parents were abusive. And now just taking that all back, because Disney is like, we can't sell anything that's not pro-family. That's essentially
Yeah.
what it is. Disney's like family
They
at all
should have had
costs.
Maleficent, although they probably couldn't afford Kristen Chenoweth again, but they should have had Maleficent have an arc. That would have
Yeah.
made more sense. Like,
And you could have
what if,
acknowledged.
oh, that would have been kind of cool if Audrey went to Maleficent and freed Maleficent from her lizard form.
Yeah.
And then they were together, and then she
Yeah.
got to have an arc. And then
Yeah.
she could have made up with her mom and come to terms with that instead of having Hades.
And that would have been a better finale too. Like she could have, yeah. And it's just because Disney has to be pro family at all costs. They can't say don't keep in touch with your abusive parents. They have to be like, oh, at the end, the kids are like, our parents miss us, they love us, and we're excited to see them. And it's like, you never went to go see them in the second one when you were back there. They did not treat you very well. They did not care about you. And it's just Disney being pro family at all costs because we're trying to get parents to buy this stuff for their kids.
Yep.
And but Disney being like, screw your parents, they're bad to you, is kind of integral to their brand. Look at Ariel, Snow White, Cinderella, and it's so that's the weird aesthetic thing where because it's aesthetically edgy, you can go with something that's almost more retrograde, like family at all costs. Cinderella is one of the oldest stories in the world, and it's still like, sometimes your family is terrible to you. It's just, I think they really fumbled the third one. The songs functionally work better because most of the songs do push the story forward, but
it's better in some aspects, but I mean,
it's just the writing really. And I think it's just because they created a social situation in that first one that they couldn't really let stand. And if they had planned and thought more when they made the first one, they wouldn't have been stuck with that plot in the third. They're almost like stuck with a plot that they had to make work. And it's like, if they had just thought ahead a little more, and they wouldn't have made essentially Trump's America of Disney characters. And
unless that
that's
was
what's
the
frustrating about this
intention.
French. It could have been the intention.
They were like, we want to do something a little bit political, but it's shrouded in Disney, so people aren't going to really think about it.
Terrible allegory because,
well, that's probably why they put it on Disney Channel.
Did Mexico curse a baby?
So
did Middle Easterners make a puppy coat? Racism, as much as things like the movie Bright or like things, they try and make it about past grievances, but typically in American racist discourse, it's about the unnamed other. It's about things that they may have done but didn't do. And you're taking characters that have canonically done things, and we know their crimes. We know what they've done. Most of it's child abuse or murder. And we're trying to put them with, and I don't like that implication that people who are poor, who have the edgy aesthetic, have done bad things in the past, and we need to just forgive them. It's like, these are two very different scenarios. It's ignoring the age gap and the privilege that a lot of Disney villains had. Like Jafar was a high-ranking political official trying to marry a child, and he almost got away with it.
Yeah. I think also it is interesting that the way it is weirdly political, when we talked about it in the Little Mermaid remake or the live action, how they sanitized Ursula's lyrics. And it's like, well, to what end? Like, she's the villain. We're not supposed to support her. Like, we know that she's bad. So, like, you can have her say bad things, and that doesn't, like, influence the children. In fact, it could be more powerful to say, like, well, only villains think this way,
Yeah.
But, like, in this case, because they're trying to make the villains the good guys, but it's not even the villains, it's the villains' kids that they're trying to make the good guys. So perhaps leaning too much into the stories that they're trying to like weave in and out of, these three movies, if they had kind of ignored that a little more and just focused on like the kids themselves instead of like the backstories of their parents,
Yeah, I think
it,
there's a
it would have
way.
freed them up a little bit.
I think having that, as I talked about, like an evil kingdom instead of a prison camp would have given them more flexibility in what they could have done for the different stories.
There's a kingdom of the heroes and then the kingdom of the villains. And they weren't put there for a certain reason. They just were like, all right, well, if you guys are going to form your own thing, we're going to form our own thing,
Yeah,
And maybe there's a barrier between them, but it's because people of Oridon are like, we're protecting ourselves. It's not like we're exiling them.
yeah. And the reason the villain kids can't cross, maybe other people get to escape the evil kingdom, but they're the kids of the villains, so they're stuck with their parents. There's like
Yeah.
it's a little freer, and so they wrote themselves into a corner, and Descendants 3 is the unfortunate result of that. And so they're trying to reach a message that their allegory isn't equipped for. And I think the Zombies franchise is able to meet some of those allegories a little better because it's less of a loaded thing. Hey, this is Cullen and Hannah. After we finished our Descendants journey, we had to realize it was so long we had to split it into multiple parts. So thank you for following me on my wild deep dive through the aesthetics of good and evil, the Descendants movie, and the history of Descendants and Ever After High, 2 and 3 of the Descendants franchise. Tune in next week for the wedding special and Rise of Red. In the meantime, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that Quasimodo bell notification to know when we upload another video. And just like Dopey and whoever Doug's mom is, you can smash that like button. You can find Not My Fantasy Pod where, Hannah?
On Instagram and TikTok, we are at Not My Fantasy Pod.
Follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. Please, if you like this, leave a 5-star review. And comment below with who you would want to be in the Descendants universe.
Come up with a better name than just Mal
or Audrey. Jay. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.